Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the show today. And gaskets have been popped. There's a lot of doubling down. Of course, it's not doubling down. I guess this has been going on for 6 years at least under this current run. I don't know what are we up to? A decatupling, more than that. But anyway, Hollywood and its ilk have certainly lost their damn mind again, which, yeah, I guess is just par for the course, isn't it? So we have to get used to it, or not. Nevertheless, welcome. Glad to have you guys here. I'm going over here and I'm going to hit that like button and share it out, so we get as many people as possible in here. Do appreciate you guys, and hopefully we'll have a couple of panelists show up here soon enough. But we got some interesting things to talk about today. So hold grab a hold of the chairs, I guess. Hey, dude, what's up?
Yo, nothing much.
You are a little bit low for me. Let me turn that up. All righty.
Hey, I might be low on my end too. Let's see. No, I shouldn't be.
Yeah, it's probably just me.
Yeah, I can switch. I'll go to my good mic.
Oh, we get the good mic, folks.
Is that better?
No, actually.
Weird.
Yeah, I think it was just my mic was low.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I think it's fine. But anyway, yeah, we got a bunch of stuff to get into today, but I don't know if you've noticed it over there. I'm living outside. Maybe I'm a little bit more aware of things because I'm not in the mix of it. But it seems like a cork has been loosed this week. What happened?
Yeah. It's warm out. That's it.
Warm. Oh, this summer's going to be brutal in those Democrat cities, dude.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, it's gonna be a shit show.
More fire and death. Yay.
I'm excited. I don't know about you.
Yeah, well, I'm good. I'm over here, so I don't have to worry about any of that silly nonsense at all. The thing is, I understand that the official inflation rate is sitting at 8.3%, but it's actually
That's
more
some
like
bullshit.
60% in reality.
That's some bullshit. You can say inflation rate is at 8% if you really do some skewing, right? If you do some playing,
Of course.
and if you include literally everything, right? But that's ridiculous. You shouldn't include literally everything because most people don't buy literally everything. So the inflation rate on food, for instance, that little thing that little nicety to have,
Yeah.
is at least 30%. At least.
Yeah.
And I know this for a fact because I can do basic math, Chester, and you see a thing that was $1 in November being $1.30 now. That's pretty easy math to do.
It is.
Even I can do that math.
It is. Even you.
Yeah.
But it does look to me that it seems to be more closer to 50, 60% kind of across, overall when you average everything.
Which is insane.
Matters.
Which is an insane amount. So basically what happened, if you make under a certain amount of money, you took a huge pay cut, whatever you're making. Because now the little bit of money that you get, comparatively, right? The little bit of money that you get is worth so much less and goes so fewer places.
Oh, sure. That's true.
That it's much harder on you. Whereas somebody making six figures, yeah, they're hurting a little bit, but they're probably okay. Somebody making, $40,000 a year, especially if they got kids or they have a mortgage, and they're screwed. They're just screwed. You're just.
The reason I bring it up though, is because I'm over here and I've hardly seen any increase at all. I mean, gas went up like a few cents.
Yeah.
It's hardly any real increase. It's not affecting us at all. We're normal.
Well, that's the funny thing, right? Because our president, old President Pudding Brain, keeps getting up there and talking, and him and his flunkies keep saying, "But the inflation's happening everywhere." I said, "My buddy in Japan said it ain't happening there."
Yeah, no, it's not.
Am I supposed to? Here's what they want me to do. They want me to listen to people I don't know, as if their opinion matters to me over people I do, which is one of the reasons why I was against the masking stuff. Is because my wife My literal wife was against it. And she knew that she worked in that field, she worked in COVID wards, she understood why it was nonsensical.
Sure.
So I'm not going to listen to 1,000 other all these studies and things. I'm not going to do that. I don't know those people. They're probably lying to me. I do
Oh,
know
yeah.
my wife. She's probably not. I do know
Right.
Chester. He's probably not.
No.
Why would they?
Well, I can give you a good example. I mean, this weekend, because next weekend I go up and run the the English club, right? So
Mm-hmm.
this weekend I have off on so we kind of just stayed home, but we decided yesterday to, just take a ride south. The highway that way is free, so it's
Mm-hmm.
just kind of a cheap day out. Just take a ride, and went down to a yakiniku place, which is basically Japanese barbecue restaurant, right? And
Sure.
their style. It's more like grilling. I don't know why they call it barbecue, but whatever. And we went in there, and I was running a little bit late, so I got there like at 3, right? So it's a little bit late,
Mm-hmm.
and the place was absolutely packed. We had to wait a good 30 minutes, I'd say. And that's a yakiniku place, so you pay per person, and you get to eat for like an hour and a half or something like that. It's kind of like a Japanese buffet, sorta. But how much do you think that costs for one person? Lunchtime.
Lunchtime. Um. So it's basically like you can just eat whatever you want
Yeah, it's basically
within
you
that time
order all
frame.
different kinds of meats or pickles and stuff, and you grill them, and you
Mm-hmm.
do it yourself. You grill it right there in front of you. You get
Oh, one person here, something like that would probably be about in between $10 to $15.
thirty
In where I
dollars.
live.
thirty
Yeah.
dollars.
Woo.
30 each. So we paid $60.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, it's normal for that kind of place. But still, 60
Mm-hmm.
bucks is 60 bucks because I can go out and have a good lunch for under 30 easy, right?
Oh
So,
yeah, absolutely.
so it's a little bit more expensive, but my wife wanted to try it, so we did. But the point being is, this southern town we went to, this well, they call it a city. I don't know if I would. It's a little bit of a poorer place. They're not like the city to the north of me, about the same distance drive, but that's a much richer place. And But yet the place was actually absolutely packed. And yakiniku tends to be a younger people thing anyway, so it was mainly young couples with their little babies, right? Because
Right.
babies are free, right? Kids are free. So just as an example, if you had an inflation banging on people, one of the first things to go away is going to be yakiniku restaurants, right? Because
Right.
that is always you're always paying more than you have to. You can go find much cheaper food. But Yeah, no, Japan it's hardly any effect at all. It's very little. Now, I'm not saying that next winter we're not going to see a bigger effect because we might. But it's interesting to me how America has got hit so quickly.
Mm.
Even though we're not inside a growing and harvest season yet. How did that happen? Why did that happen? Explain to me baby formula. I don't understand.
Well, there's a lot of factors for the baby formula. One of the main ones is the largest baby formula plant in the country has been shut down since early last fall, I do believe.
Why?
Something to the effect of some violation of OSHA standard or something. I don't know
In
the
Mecca?
ins and outs of it. Yeah, but why does it take that long?
Well,
You
I've
got
worked with
$40 billion
OSHA before.
to
They
throw
are
it. I got
assholes.
four. Yes, you got $40 billion to throw at Ukraine. You don't got a billion to throw over there to see why that plane ain't running. I
But
mean, if we're throwing billions around, why aren't we throwing it at places that the American people could use, like
sure.
baby formula?
And my question is a little deeper than that. I mean, if you're not breastfeeding and therefore you're not lactating because you're not breastfeeding and you're using formula and you don't have formula, I get it. It needs to be fixed. End of
Yep.
conversation. However, I do have a follow-up question.
Mm-hmm.
Why does it seem that so many American women are breastfeeding? Why are not breastfeeding? Why? Why?
Are not breastfeeding.
Well, if they're
Um,
using formula, what the hell? Why aren't they breastfeeding? What's going on?
that's a good question. A lot of women don't want to breastfeed because it makes their boobs look ugly. That's what they'll
Tough
tell you.
shit. Don't be a mother then. Fuck off. No, dude,
Well,
that
they also have surgeries to fix that if you're really that insecure about it.
They do, but you realize how essential breastfeeding is. I mean,
Yeah,
seriously, to the
it's one of the most important things you can do for a child, maybe even the most, especially at that stage. Aside from not suffocating it,
well,
because the brain development is absurd
we
in
got studies
difference.
outside the all over the place showing the immunization factors. I mean, all kind of things, even psychological factors down the road. It's been
Yep.
proven scientifically very clearly. You should be breastfeeding. I
If
mean,
you
now
can.
I understand there's some women who can't, and okay, glad we have formula, but and supplement it maybe, but you should be breastfeeding, and if America's not breastfeeding, then we need to have a sit down, dude. We need to have a sit
America
down.
is doomed, Chester. That's what I keep trying to tell people, but they don't want to listen. We became too affluent too quickly, and it's over. There will not be in America probably in my lifetime for sure, maybe even in yours, because you're about 20 years older than me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not saying that because it makes me happy. I'm saying it because it's reality.
The
We've seen
Darrow's
these sorts of
predicting my
signals.
death.
We've seen these sort of signals in other empires, because that's what America is. Over time, throughout history, we're at the end now. We're in the looting phase now. That's why they keep doing all the spending. Even though inflation is insane, they're just going to spend into oblivion.
Oh, they don't
That's
give
where
a
we're at.
shit. That's definitely true. They never do because they know it's a fiat system and they don't it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
But Roger says generally some of the women their bodies lack nutrients. Their bodies are dirty. It's okay, Roger. You can touch the girl. It's okay.
Well, there's also another problem is
Yeah.
we're on even though America is really fat, we're also extremely malnourished. Like it's a problem now.
How?
So,
If you're fat.
well, because your body can store freaking anything, right? It'll store it just to use it for energy later if need be. But when you're eating food, if that food is not proper nourishment, meaning it's very thin when it comes to nourishment,
Yeah.
you're in for a situation
Well,
where you can eat, eat, and you'll put on fat, but you are not healthy.
eat a salad. God.
Well, that's the problem. Even the salad's starting to lose its nutrients because of our topsoil degradation in America.
Oh,
You see,
well,
we supply
that
pretty
always
much the
comes back
entire.
to Monsanto.
Yes, we
Always.
supply a lot of it does. We supply pretty much all of the world's corn. I think it's like 98% or something, some ridiculously high number. And corn is a base food. Just about everything has some form of corn in it, whether it's
Yeah,
syrup
that's
or
not
cornmeal
great.
or
Yeah.
foods and grains. And then obviously we also produce a ton of the world's beans, right? We're the main bean producer, I believe.
Are we?
Grains and stuff come from other places. We do that a lot too, but
Russia.
we have competition, if you will, in that market.
Sure.
But we could do that too. The American soil used to be by far the best soil in the world because it was mostly untouched. And we have massive swaths of this continent that are perfect for farming. They're just perfect. Like when I say it's the most valuable soil in the world, I mean that. It genuinely is.
Normally, that would prompt the historical geological dissertation for me, but I've learned. I've grown with the narrative.
Well, but the point I'm making is if pretty much every empire of any description, all the great ones anyway, were either some form of conquest, or they were agrarian, or they were both. Right? That you build an empire when you have enough food to build an empire. Starving soldiers don't really do shit against not starving soldiers. They'll lose usually, especially at the equal level of training. And one of the reasons Rome was able to conquer is they didn't starve. They ate. They had decent food and decent food supplies, and as they grew, they were smart. Especially that our buddy of mine, Augustus, probably the greatest ruler of all time. He understood how important it was to make sure the food supply never got too low for the soldiers and for the citizens. The slaves he didn't give a shit about. But everybody else, he made sure that they had their food. So when they took Egypt, when Caesar took Egypt before him, Egypt was the breadbasket of the Mediterranean and largely still is because of the Nile Delta. So he made sure to utilize that as best as he could.
Right. They didn't have herbicides either.
Yes.
They had
America,
mantids.
one of the reasons why we were able to become so powerful is we fed the whole world. You didn't really challenge us too much on trade because we're the ones who gave you your base food because of the Great Plains providing food for basically the world. I mean, there were some exceptions, but by and large, we fed the whole world for a very long time. We were an agrarian empire.
Sure.
We've forgotten that, and we have abused it. And
Well,
now we have
no.
corporations like Monsanto who have completely abandoned any sensible farming techniques. Like, they just don't even pretend to care about it.
Right.
And the topsoil is degrading so quickly that within 20 years, if something doesn't change, our food will probably be worthless. I mean, it'll be like eating leaves, right? You can eat a leaf; it's not going to do anything for you, but you can eat one.
I understand what you're saying, and of course, the Monsanto does strip farming, and it's not really the way to go. There's a lot of pushback on that, though, and there might be some change coming. However, in that case, I know there's plenty of nutritional doctors that will get on the lectin rant, and that's fine. But if there is an actual nutrition problem, then what I would suggest is eat less lectin-based foods and more vegetable. Because lectins are, you find they are poisonous to you and they do harm you a little bit. But humanity's been eating them forever. But to stay away from tomatoes and strawberries and wheats and these kinds of things. Corn. Eat less of it.
Grains.
Yeah, you just eat less of it and eat more vegetable stuff, and it should be positive. I don't know, Ben, do you have any opinion on the nutritional value of American farming soil?
As far as the numbers go that Thundera is putting out, I'm not finding us producing 95% of the corn. Best numbers I can find is we produce 32%, with China second at 23% of the world's corn.
I'm talking about the soil degradation.
Well, I mean, that's just, capitalism, capitalizing, right?
That's true.
They're,
Yeah.
I mean, what the farmers knew for the longest time was like you do field rotation, right?
Yeah.
You during a season you let one field kind of rest, you till it and let it kind of chill and not, you have to use stuff, right? But that would be land being underutilized, and you can't have that. Like everything's got to be producing 24/7.
It's in the Bible. The Bible says. It is. Every 7 years you shall let your fields fallow and free your slaves.
Yep.
So the Jews are better slavers. They only keep their slaves for 6 years.
Well, they have ways around that. They just sell them off to a family member.
Probably.
Problem solved.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
But anyway. But yeah, no. I've actually watched documentaries on this issue. I know it is a problem because a lot of farming scientists are promoting putting in stuff like the British do. They'll have hedges. Right, the hedgerows are actually very important to the health of the field because in there you got all the chipmunks and the bugs and everything's kind of living, but they'll interact with your fields and other than having a season of fallow, these hedgerows are really help to promote the health of it. And you see a lot of farmers in America are trying to institute this, but once again, it is a capitalist issue, and Monsanto, that's a show all on its own. We could do a series on Monsanto and how they screw. I mean, what they're doing in India right now is disgusting. But but nevertheless, I didn't know that was that big a problem. But still, ladies, eat more vegetables, nevertheless, and breastfeed your kids. What the fuck, dude? I no, seriously. I mean, if you're not, and then there's a lack of a baby formula, that's a problem and it needs to be fixed quickly. Okay, fine. But you should be breastfeeding. What are you doing? It's essential to the baby's health. It's just when I heard this news coming up this week, and then Bette Midler, who says the dumbest shit all the time, right? Bette Midler is a perfect example. She should be there right next to Whoopi and whatever that lady's name is, but on that show. But she's not wrong. I guess she could have been more sensitive about it. But yeah, breastfeed. And I've seen examples here in Japan, for instance, and Ben might know something about this as well. Here, the Japanese ladies, there's a certain percentage of them that have a certain, they lack in a certain anatomy, Thundero.
Yep.
And they can't
shame.
breastfeed because they don't have them. Yeah. But what they do here is this weird little thing that humans have been doing since the dawn of time: wet nursing. Yeah,
Yes.
it's real. Mm. But I can't believe I'm agreeing with Bette Midler. Fuck Ben. Shoot me.
I mean, I'll buy a ticket and we'll take care of this with over the weekend.
Fair
Oh no.
enough. Thank you. Thank you. Put me out of my misery. But I just don't understand. It's really bad. You really should be breastfeeding. It was shocking news to me. One, that there's a lack of it anyway. But it also comes in the conversation we've been hinting at the past few weeks, and we haven't really talked about. Why does it seem that there's a systematic attack upon foodstuffs?
I actually did
It's
some
very
research
strange.
into that, and there isn't actually a systematic attack. There's been a lot of like, so so you're talking about the, I think it's 23 now, food production locations that have caught
That
fire.
have blown up, and then all the poisoned chickens that need to be wiped out, and now I hear about cows being laid down. Yeah, well, you
So
say this is coincidence. Okay, go ahead.
Well, no, I mean, so a lot of these contain, large manufacturing facilities. If they're not up to date with their inspections and stuff like that. So I took a look through some of the fire reports.
Yeah.
A lot of them were due to, old equipment that was like not being properly maintained and stuff. Also keep in mind, 23, we have 32,000 food production plants in the United States, right? So it's not really even a drop in the bucket compared to like what we actually produce here in
Oh
the
no,
US.
that's true.
Right.
But it will shock the system initially, though.
Let me real quick. I double checked myself again. The reason why I was wrong, I had the wrong wrong term. So I double checked.
Is used for animal feed, right?
Yeah,
Is that,
yeah.
yeah. Okay,
About
that's what you're
it's like
saying.
92% of the nation, 92% of the nation's agricultural exports all go through the one thing, but 78% of the world's exports in feeds and grains get down the Mississippi River Delta, meaning
Right.
right through there we have pretty much all of your animal feed and stuff, and then your base meal stuff, your meal basically. So your corns and your starch and your stuff like that. That pretty much everything else is made from that we eat.
Yeah,
Or
I just
fed.
when you said we produce 95% of the world's corn, that just did not sound right whatsoever. So
Yeah, that's what I meant. I meant the meal.
Okay.
I mean the
Okay.
base stuff. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but
Anyway.
with that said, however, I do know that there's been, I don't know about every year, but I've heard of many years where America not only is paying, the government's actually paying farmers to not farm, which is weird. But we'll also see that tons, I mean, in some cases, millions of tons of food is just burned,
Yes.
destroyed.
Yeah, so this is something that I think we really need to take a look at from an economic perspective. So a lot of this like weird stuff we do with farming and the government is all based off of the Depression and trying to avoid rushes on food and either over saturating the market or something like that. Like for instance, did you know we have like, I think it's like 1.3 billion pounds of cheese sitting in caverns and such? Like,
Yes.
like
I did know that.
we way overproduce cheese because that's just part of a leftover economic model from the Great Depression and stuff. So
Right.
we really need to take a hard look at how we're, because keep in mind, like there's basic like food parts of life that are meant to be like cheap and we subsidize to keep them within the market. And we're talking about like eggs, flour, sugar, like things that people could use to like bake and what have you, right? So we always want to make sure that those are in abundance and are cheap and easy to get, because they're considered parts of like just
staple,
living, right? So but these things are kind of left over from an economic model that's almost 100 years old now, and I feel like we need to kind of take a look and see how we're doing this to see like what we're actually trying to accomplish.
Bureaucracy is fat and slow. That's true. You know what I suggest about the cheese, though, guys? I say we say 10% to Poland so they could feed the Ukrainian refugees, and we send the other 90% to China to give them all diarrhea.
I mean, it just feels like, it feels like it should be something I should be able to drive up and like demand free cheese as a U.S. citizen. Like, can I just go to the caves and be like, hey, give me my like due of cheese?
You bastards.
I paid for it. I want it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But it does sound to me, and I've been kind of paying attention to this on the periphery for well, quite a while. There is some really screwy shit that's going on with the food production in America, and I understand it's only 23. You said 23 factories blew up. But okay, fine. But that is I would like to see the year-to-year report on blowing up factories and compare them because it seems a bit convenient. Because although you're probably right, it has a limited effect on the overall supply. It's certainly shocking the audience, right? And
Yeah.
there seems to be quite a bit of that going on here, Ben. Why are they trying to shock and panic the Americans into thinking their food supply is reduced and harmed? Why?
I mean, this gets into the, delicate conversation of like hyperinflation, right?
Yeah.
We already have a supply chain problem, right? And
Uh-huh.
so if you further combine that with a belief that there's a shortage when there actually isn't a shortage, right? That can excuse price hikes that will then further, exacerbate part of the inflation problem that we have going
Sure.
on,
And they,
right?
so you're saying they don't want us to look at their Wall Street dealings? Is that what you're telling me?
Oh, I would totally believe that. This is one of those things that like Thundero and I actually come together and agree on is that
Yeah.
there's plenty of like malicious, machinations coming from like large corporations for the
Oh yeah.
purposes of lining their
God, you're
pockets,
hurting
right?
my brain. It's machinations. Oh, fuck. I,
Hey, you know what?
hey.
Listen, he's an English teacher and he spells
Yeah.
words wrong about 40% of the time,
No,
so
I
don't let him
don't.
get to you.
I don't. It's not
I have
true.
seen the
What
titles
words?
to these videos. What are you talking about?
There's truth there. There's truth there.
Yeah, but that's the internet. I blame the internet.
Anyways, so like, and it doesn't help like like Abbott recently pulled a stunt that ended up costing us like a couple billion in trade, right? Because it basically killed a bunch of food on trucks that were waiting for over a day and a half to 2 days to transport, like food and stuff like that, right?
Mexicans are not tacos, Ben.
And the thing, they didn't find a single illegal in all of those searches and such, right? So like the question becomes like, was that just like a $4.2 billion, political
Slush
stunt?
fund. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't
probably.
it's
know.
certainly possible, but
Well, that's the real problem is it's not like it's a mystery where they cross. Everybody knows it. You can talk to the people down there. They know where they're coming across at. They probably have video of it. It's not like
Right.
this big grand yeah, there's coyotes who run
Yeah.
people and smuggle them in. Of course there are. But how about we stop the ones we literally have video of just walking in? How about we deal with them instead of running multi-billion-dollar sting operations that get nothing?
sure. I mean, and that's of course shifting the conversation, but I do find that whole thing interesting with the illegal immigration because America is one of the most prolific countries for immigration. I mean, we have
Mhm.
such a lax system. Yeah, everyone's welcome. It's our thing, right? So it's like, why are they coming in illegally when they can so easily just come in legally? I don't understand. You can just walk on in and file all the paperwork. It's quite easy. It's really easy.
Well, I mean, so you're technically right because we have an open border policy with Mexico, right? And so all you need is a
Mhm.
passport, and
Yeah.
we used to not even need a passport then. But there's plenty of people who are coming over who don't even have a passport or identification. That's what makes it complicated. But that is actually a large part of immigration or illegal immigration of people who come over perfectly legally and then they just overstay their welcome, right? They
Sure.
stay past their
Yep,
That
visa,
is true.
right?
But you know what I mean, Ben. It's actually very easy to become an American. I know for a fact that if you come in without a passport and you're poor, because that matters, right? But if you come in
Mhm.
without a passport, the government will help you get one from
Oh,
I
your
mean that
country.
that slowed down. It's not as prolific as it used to be. But also keep in mind that there's a portion of these people who are not necessarily legal immigrants. They're giving themselves purposely at the border. They are asylum seekers. And so that becomes part of the messy conversation of like, what are we doing with those people, right? And there's totally justified conversations about, hey, why aren't they stopping in Mexico? That's a whole different conversation and stuff, right? But
That was
The-
one of Trump's
just-
best policies. Was the hold them in Mexico policy? That was brilliant. I
Well,
don't know
yeah.
if he probably didn't come up with it, but whoever did it was that's exactly what should happen.
It seemed to
Mexico
help.
should absolutely be the ones responsible for keeping them in their country when they're there.
Right.
I
get
don't
you.
see any reason why that's a bad policy at all. Sounds reasonable to me.
Well, I get your point, but my point is that it's so easy just to go through the process, though.
Yep.
I mean, America is the most lenient and most openly friendly country for migration. It is.
Yep.
we still only take a certain number per year, right? You know, it's a complicated conversation, right? But there's basically a limited number that we'll take as U.S. citizens every year, right?
Yeah, no, I get it. I really think we're at a point right now where we need just to, because we do this every so many decades, just shut it all down, sort out what we got going on, and get it fixed again, and then go at it again. Because me
agree.
personally, I have no problem at all with anyone in the world migrating to America or immigrating to America. I have no problem
Right.
whatsoever. It's freaking America. That's what we are. We are the melting pot. I mean, most every other country on the planet is homogenous, and I think it's good. I think it's good that we have America like that. I do think it's important that we be able to filter out criminality for sure. But in general, I don't care where you're from. You could be North Korean as long as you're not a spy.
Or a communist.
I think what I will agree with you guys on is I think we do need to revamp the system or
Yeah.
completely remodel it to make it more efficient
Yeah, I
to
think so.
process through people. And I think that if you were to make it to where processing people didn't take so long and that you could figure out, do we have the capacity, what would relocation look like, do you qualify, and just get them through the system faster
Sure.
and more humanely, right? Would be probably the best way to solve the problem. And really, if you did something that was that efficient, people wouldn't be crossing it, with over in the desert and stuff. They'd want to go through. There's a lot of people who probably want to go through processing. Right?
And I think a lot of it has to do with ignorance, Ben, and these cartels and these coyotes make
Oh, absolutely.
money. It's an industry.
Oh yeah, 1000%.
But because
Well,
as far as I know, America is the only country that doesn't require you to have a minimum income,
correct.
right?
I think you are, at least I think you're right. I don't think there's another one. I was trying to catch myself if I was forgetting one, but I'm pretty sure all of, especially, quote, first world countries require that.
Yeah. In New Zealand, you got
and that's
like 40
totally
grand in the
reasonable.
bank or something.
Right, that's totally reasonable to me. They don't want, trashy people coming to their country. I understand that.
They don't want to have to pay for your life. Yeah, I get it.
Yes. And that's what I mean by trashy. Not that all poor people are trashy. I'm poor. But other people, you know what I'm saying. Like people who are just going to come there and be leeches and things.
Trashy. Oh
Yeah.
man, don't do that to me, Thundero.
Well, you do realize, though, I mean, I grew up poor.
I did until I was in high
Ben's
school, and
not.
my
He's a
parents
rich
started
boy.
making.
Don't you listen to him.
I'm
started
firmly
making
middle-
decent money.
Firmly middle class, not rich.
Yeah, no, I worked myself into middle classdom, but
Yeah.
because I was definitely from a poor family. Because my dad worked for the government. Yeah. Now,
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
screwed up is that?
Yeah.
Right. But
No, I
anyway,
think you're right, Chester. I think we need a moratorium, probably about 5 years at minimum.
Yeah,
Figure
you
out what's
just
going on. Figure
take a
out who
breath.
should be here, who
Yeah.
shouldn't be here. Get them out of here if they shouldn't be here. Sort it out and be done with it.
Fix
But
it
we
up.
can't have anything sensible like that
We've done it
because
before.
I know we did it for about 25 years before we
I
shut
don't
down
think it needs to
immigration
be that
largely.
long. I think
No,
we
it's
just
probably not that long, especially
Yeah.
not with modern technology. We could sort it much faster.
We just
But
really need to
we've
get a
done it
grip.
before, multiple times, in fact. We've said, oh, that's about enough. We've had enough. We got problems here. We need to fix these problems here. Like our roads and things. It'd be nice to be able to focus on
Yeah, now
actual infrastructure plans, not
That's-
fake ones that are just
that's
pork bills.
another weird thing, dude. How in the hell are I'm sure that we could kind of get on the state's asses about this as well. But
Yep.
how in the hell are you not maintaining infrastructure? I mean, that's your basic responsibility. That's the basic
It's job one
It
when
is.
it comes to the
There's so
bureaucratic
much
state.
corruption at the local level right now. It is absolutely ridiculous.
I'm sure.
To his
that's true,
point,
yeah.
to his point, the city that I live in, the 4 members of the 9-person city council were indicted 4 years ago by the federal government for taking bribes from the big medical corporation around here.
Yeah, no,
That's how
I'm
bad the
sure.
corruption is at the local level, and it's just everywhere now. It's not just big cities; it's all over where this has become a problem, and it's just decadence. This is what happens when a country becomes so decadent that they lose sight of any kind of morality or ethics, and all they care about
Yeah.
is greed and money.
That's a problem. But I
Yeah.
did watch a documentary not too long ago that all it did was it just was looking at bridges in America, just bridges,
Yeah.
right? And my God, dude, it's not good. It's really bad. It's really, really bad. And the thing that kills me, I wish over here where I live, they would take a break every now and then on the frickin' infrastructure updating. Because my God, they're constantly repaving shit.
You
But
know,
because
like
here,
there being work crews on every other road.
I
That's
know,
what I
right?
remember from
Right.
Japan. It's
No,
just like
yeah.
constantly work crews every other road.
So our roads are awesome, but mainly because here in Japan, it's just they're trying to make sure people are getting paid money because there is a
Or
certain
try.
social aspect here.
So
Socialism.
not only are our roads terrible, but if you live in the winter parts of the country,
Well,
they
like
get
we grew
actual
up in.
snowfall. Yeah, like where I live. Holy shit. In the wintertime, even main roads, sometimes it's like doing slalom. You're just dodging potholes. You're all over the place
Holy
because
shit, dude.
otherwise you're going to tear out your suspension. You're just going to tear it right out because the
Yeah.
plows come through and rip up all the patches because, of course, all they did is just patch it before the winter. So now you got drivers down here, and of course the city ain't going to pay for that. It's real cute. If you rip out your suspension on a pothole, they're just going to laugh at you like, that's what your insurance is for.
It's not just that. Like our power grid here in Texas is awful. Like we're having blackouts again because
You want to know what's terrible about that, Ben? It's the best one in the country. That's how horrible the American power grid system is.
Wow.
It's one of the best ones in the country. In Ohio, we fixed a lot of ours because if you remember about 15 years ago, maybe it was 20 years ago, the whole East Coast went down for a couple days. Power outage, big mass blackout. That was caused by a tree in Ohio. The branch hit a transformer and cascade failure throughout the whole this side of the country. That's how bad our power grid is. That should not happen.
Well,
Period.
you know what it sounds like to me, and I'm going to make Ben smile here.
Uh-oh.
No, it sounds like to me that even though we hear when it comes to politics, a lot of these, well, the majority of American states would be considered conservative, right?
Yep.
But they'll say we need more power in the states and less to the federal government, but yet they're constantly throwing costs like infrastructure onto the federal government,
Yes.
and it's like you can't ask for one thing and not live it, dude. I mean,
This
it's
is what
really
happens when you have a debt-based economy. It's one of the reasons why things like, usury has been illegal all over the world for many times of the world is because a debt-based economy always lowers standards. Always. It always does and it always will because if you can subsidize through debt, meaning people can literally sell off other people's debt and they can get money based on debt, which is exactly how our money's printed. Well, it doesn't really matter then. You're not providing a service. You're not accountable to that individual person or to the individual people because it's a future problem. You just pushed it off to the future,
Yeah,
right? It's a
that's-
debt. I can pay it later. We can pay it later. Well, now we're $30 trillion in debt.
Yeah,
When are we gonna pay it?
That's
Can
a
I-
problem. And I just before you answer, say something, Ben. Just also, you all noticed and you all saw that it was Thundera that mentioned the Jews, not me.
Not say anything about Jews.
Go ahead,
Good
Ben.
joke. Thanks, Thundero. So I'm gonna offer. It's not necessarily an alternative per se. I'm gonna say it's an addendum to your commentary, but I'm also gonna say that part of the problem that we have is that a lot of our economy has been shifted to serve corporations instead of
Yes.
the people. Like it used to be that the American government served the people, right? And then we have shifted over the last. Frankly, since Reagan, we have shifted our economic model to serve corporations, and corporations, they don't have the same needs, desires, or goals as serving the people, and I think that is another huge contributing problem.
Well,
I would say it was even before that. The main shift probably happened right after World War II. The first real corporate war that America fought, like actual one, was probably Korea and definitely
fair.
Vietnam. That I mean, the anti-war people of that time were insufferable largely, but they weren't wrong. The reason that war happened was because they wanted to sell helicopters. That's the truth. Everybody knows it. It's not a secret. That's what it was about. It was about money. And they used a bunch of excuses to literally start a war through a lie, and then kept us over there for however long it was,
Think
and
about how many
killed
cute girls they killed too. 'Cause they were so-
58,000 Americans. My uncle almost died over there. Two of my uncles almost died over there twice. Like, just a terrible crime against humanity, the Vietnam War was, and it was done in the name of corporate greed.
It was, yeah. You know, the
Well-
interesting thing to me that's kind of laid out over the past so many decades is traditionally, the liberals all
Mhm.
think that the government should subsidize everything and the government is God. Where the Republicans were, well, you know, we own all these corporations, so in order for us to make money, you need to make money. Which
Yep.
is why people traditionally would kind of want to lean toward, especially family people, lean toward the Republicans because you know, they actually want you to have money in your pocket so they can make more money. It used to be this way.
Mhm.
Although I've seen a shift recently. It's almost as if the liberals have become the Republicans and the conservatives
Uh-oh.
have become the Democrats.
I
Have you
think what
noticed
it
this?
actually
Have you noticed this?
is the establishment decided it's much easier to buy politicians than it is to actually have policies for the people. So that's why it looks that way. And you have a lot of people on both sides, and I'm obviously biased here, largely on the left, though, it seems, who very much, you know, the NPC meme? Now, that's obviously satirical for the most part, but
Sure.
who very much take programming, quote unquote, I'm doing air quotes, programming from the media and from other places. And then there's other people on the right who take it from different sources, but they still take it. But somehow, both of these two vectors always end up with us killing more people and
Yeah,
supporting more war,
we're
and corporations getting bigger kickbacks and making bigger profit. That is funny how that works.
yeah,
How they always win. How does that happen, huh?
we are
I
good.
mean,
we're good at that. Yeah.
Eisenhower warned us in his farewell address, right, about the
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
the war machine, right? So like this
He
is
also
something
he didn't just warn the war machine though. That's the part everybody remembers. I think it was earlier, might have been even later. I don't remember the exact time frame, but in that same speech, he also warns in the I think he calls it the academic industrial complex, something to that effect, and how they're going to be melded together. The academy, the institutions, the universities, all of that. They're trying to basically meld it together because that's where their leaders will come from for, you know, to replace these people. And I say was right. Eisenhower, I don't know what that speech was. I don't know how that speech happened because Eisenhower was a system animal his whole life.
Yeah, he was.
Like he was 100% in on the system. He loved it. But he had a moment
Yeah,
of clarity or
something
something.
scared him. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I mean,
yeah.
actually, Ben, I don't know. I'm sure you haven't seen it, but I did a whole TFT on Eisenhower. It was a pretty good
Yep.
one too. I thought Thunder.
Yeah, it was. It was
Yeah.
good. He was sadly one of our best presidents, and I say sadly because largely he really wasn't that great of a leader as far as a president goes. But because we had such economic boom and things at the time, it makes him look a lot better thanks to winning a war,
Yeah.
a great war.
The truth is, he's
um,
a bit of a monster.
A lot of the truth is, Ben, here I'll give you this one. A lot of Republicans, the ones that people like, were monsters. When you think about it, like even Lincoln, everybody loves Lincoln because he freed the slaves.
Oh,
Okay,
my
yeah, but he was a tyrant.
Hold on a second. Hold on a second. Okay, you're giving me aneurysms. First
Go
of
ahead.
all, Abraham Lincoln never freed any slaves.
Okay, but
Okay.
I'm not. I know, but that's what people think. That's what people say. People
Yeah.
say Abraham Lincoln freed the
Well,
slaves.
he didn't.
but that's
we have an amendment
true.
that was put through by the legislation that actually freed the slaves. But I mean, that was more
I
of an
know.
executive order. But keep in mind, I
Yes.
think people need to understand because it seems that very short little document called the Emancipation Proclamation that people don't
Yes.
read for some odd reason. Because if you go read that, what you do see is that he only freed slaves in the Confederacy, not in the
Right.
North. For
That's right.
one. It's kind of important, right?
Yeah, yeah. But the common belief is that he was the guy who freed the slaves, And you
Yeah,
can
I
you
know.
can split hairs over it or not. And I'm not saying you're wrong. You're right. I'm not a big Lincoln guy because there's a lot of propaganda around him that simply isn't true. That doesn't mean I think he was an evil person or anything. I think he did the wrong thing for the right reason. But when
Sure.
you do that, you become a tyrant. Like
Well,
if you look at him objectively, that man was a tyrant.
oh,
No question.
absolutely. He was ridiculously bad in the shit he did. And
Yeah.
I get on board what you're saying. He understood that that as with a slave and your pet dog, you don't kick your dog, do you?
Right.
That's a
You
quote,
shouldn't
by the
anyway.
way. That's a quote.
Yeah.
That's a stump speech quote from Abraham
That's
Lincoln.
right.
If you want to understand what he thought about black people in
The
reality.
worst part to me is obviously he probably didn't know this. At least I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. But we have the grace of being able to look back. If he had if the abolitionists, they had already won the argument because industry had already won the argument.
Sure.
If they had just been, I know this sounds terrible, but if they had just been more patient, 1 million Americans wouldn't have had to die or whatever it was. Wouldn't have had to
It
die.
was, Jefferson put that in motion back with the
Yep.
the Constitution.
The one that a bunch of people want to rip his statues down. Yeah, that's why you were freed.
they're just
Was that
morons.
evil slaver? Yeah.
Ben, do you remember when you were here with my daughter? Because my aunt Betty, which was my mother's sister, she married Charles Lincoln, and he's a direct descendant of Abraham. So technically, I'm related to Abraham Lincoln by marriage. But of course, my little baby daughter, she didn't understand. No, I know, dude, I know. But my little baby daughter, she didn't understand the difference between blood relation and marriage relation. Of course, right? She's a little baby. But she thought that was the coolest thing because, of course, in her classroom room there was a picture of big Abraham Lincoln up there, and she used to carry around a penny in her pocket, an American penny. Even here in Japan, she did it, and she would take it out and show people, "This is my uncle."
That's hilarious.
Yeah, it's cute. You remember that, Ben? Do you remember Sakura doing that?
Oh yeah, I remember.
That's amazing.
Cute as hell, dude. Yeah.
My problem is my grandfather on my father's side was adopted,
Uh-huh.
and we're not sure who his actual dad was. The rumor was that he was eventually adopted by his actual dad, but
Oh,
that was a rumor.
that's
We
nice.
didn't know that to be true. So I don't know on my patriarch side where my lineage about 1909 is about where it ends because he was adopted. On my mother's side, though, we're all the way back. We've been here. My family has been on these lands 1,000 years because of the Cherokee and everything that's in my bloodline. You go back far enough, we were some of us were here in some description. So
Sure.
it's a very interesting thing how, like, if people actually do their genealogy, which I encourage you to do,
Yeah.
it's pretty interesting. It's actually interesting stuff. Now, get it from somewhere reputable because there's a lot of places out there that'll just sell you nonsense and tell you it's the truth because they don't care and nobody's going to make them care. But if you can find somebody who does these things as a service, or even some universities probably can do it for you as a project, you can find out who you are.
Yeah.
And that stuff's important. I think that's a big problem in America. Completely on a tangent here, but I'm going to finish it. That's a big problem in America. A lot of people have absolutely no idea where they come from. They know kind of a little bit, but they don't have any idea of who their great-grandfather was, and you should know that.
That is interesting you say like that because my dad's genealogy I know really well because they've kept it,
Mhm.
but over centuries. But my mom's family, they went and they actually did the research themselves, and I saw this big board they were building, working on, and they had fun doing it. But the interesting thing is, as you say, most people don't really know who their great grandfather is,
That's right.
and when you look at certain points in history, it kind of comes to my mind like the word heaven, for instance, right?
Mhm.
A lot of people see it as being this extra dimensional place, right? But for most of the recorded history we have, heaven represents space, right? But if you take it back further, it gets into what the word really means when you take it back, way back. It actually means, and the word firmament is another part of that. It means stone because they
Hmm.
believed that the heavens were a big gigantic stone. And where would
Mhm.
they get this idea from? Well, because rocks would fall the fuck out of it, right? a lot. And they went through periods where thousands and thousands of rocks would rain down on their ass. And this is where the idea of stone came into play. And the reason I mention this is because you're looking at certain points in I would consider modern human history, that we have documentation and storytelling still from that period, right? Is what I'm looking at. Because there are sure 150,000 years ago, we have no clue what humans were doing, right? But we still have mentions and remembrances from that period. But you're looking at 100 generations lost
Yep.
to nuclear fucking winter, basically, right?
Oof.
And just imagine what would happen, what you would forget, and what you would lose, and where you would end up, right? With that. And we have and comparing it to the conversation we're having now, where the average person doesn't even know who their great grandfather was. Just
it's a problem.
imagine the loss of knowledge and the misunderstanding of things, right? It's kind of insane.
If I had to take a crazy position, you know me, I never do that. If I had to take a crazy position, I would say that a lot of mental illness comes from not having proper roots to your heritage, not knowing
Okay.
who you are,
We
not
got a
knowing
flag,
where
though.
you come from.
We got a flag.
We got flags for a lot of stuff. I think it's important. I think people should study not only the history of the world, but the history of their blood, of their family. Because literally, and I mean this, those people are you. Their genetic code is so close to yours, they're basically you. They are everything they did in their life, good, bad, or indifferent, created you, and you exist because of them. You should respect that. You don't have to worship it. You don't have to treat them like they were gods or
No.
deify them. But you should at least respect it. I think that's one thing the East does very well, and it's something the West should relearn because we used to do it, and largely we've abandoned it.
Well,
And
my
that's a problem.
great uncle was a horse thief.
Yeah, I had criminals all over my bloodline, including my own father.
But
So
Dave's
everywhere.
the luckiest one. My great grandmother was kidnapped by gypsies as a baby. That means she's got magic
Uh-oh.
powers, dude.
Uh-oh.
That's awesome.
Dave's a wizard.
Yeah.
I knew it.
Yeah.
I knew it. That's that last name. It had to be. Had to be with that kind of name.
I think Ben was kidnapped by aliens.
We don't talk about that.
Shh, shh, shh. Grimlock, what are you doing? You've been here forever and you didn't say a damn word. What are you doing?
Lurking like a creeper is
I
what he's
was
doing.
letting you guys talk. I was just listening to the conversation and letting you have your spots.
You know what? I want to just take a second, and Thundero, I'm going to completely agree with you. That is one of your craziest theories. So on point there. So.
I'm okay with it. I'm okay with being crazy. That's the thing that should scare everybody.
Yeah, fair
Being
enough.
crazy isn't what worries me. It's being right that's what worries me. Oh, what if I'm right? That's more troubling than anything. I'm okay with being crazy. I'm okay with being wrong. I don't want to be right about some of the crazy things I say because that's just terrifying.
Yeah.
That's
Don't
a
worry.
terrifying world.
I'm not worried about you being right.
Well, you
Not a
know,
problem I concern myself with.
well, we do need to move on to today's stories, but just kind of one last thing on genealogy here, real quick. I was really surprised because I knew on my dad's side, and they've been in America since 1658, right? And
Yep.
I knew there was no Native American or African or anything like that in that blood. Because of who they are. I know the modern family doesn't give a shit, but the original family carried that because it was a barony family, right? And they carried that
Sure.
kind of pride with them for quite a while. So I know that side, but my mother's side, when they really researched it, it became kind of like a family project, which is cool. But I was really surprised because they're actually Mayflower. My grandmother's an Allen, dude, right? I mean, actual
Nice.
Mayflower. And there's not a single drop of Native American blood in them at all.
That's
I was
crazy.
really surprised. So I don't have any in me at all. I figure because most Americans do. I know you do. Ben's probably got it. Grimlock's definitely got it.
Yep.
I think he's a Whoopaka.
I mean, comparatively speaking, my family is like the quote unquote youngest family between probably everyone here, genealogically speaking.
In the Americas. Okay.
Yeah, in the Americas, right? I think I'm like second generation, maybe third.
Oh, okay,
Something
all
like
right, right. That's
that.
different then. But you know what I mean. A lot of Americans have Indian in them. A lot do.
Yep.
It's a very high
Yeah.
percentage. So, Grimlock, why don't you tell us about the Whoopahas?
I know nothing about them.
Oh, it's okay. I'll do some research for you. Anyway, I think we should probably get into today's conversation because wow,
Careful,
dude,
Grimlock. Careful, Grimlock. You could be bordering on mental illness because you don't know.
that's
So,
true.
true.
You could
We
be.
want to be
True.
careful.
Gotta
about
watch
that.
it. I've
Yeah.
known him for a
I-
while. Don't worry, he's already crazy. It's fine.
Yeah.
First of all, the voices in my head are offended that you would even think that of us.
Fair, fair, fair. It's fair. It is fair. But
Something
but
that's
I get what he's saying, Ben, to a point. I mean, having some histories, having some connection, does add a certain amount of pride, right? I mean, when you look into your genealogy, you're going to find bad things, of course, but you also find some interesting things, right? I definitely, my mom's family are mainly fishermen, but my dad's family, there's some, if you go back enough centuries, there's some pretty cool shit in there, dude, right? So it's not. I get it. Anyway,
I mean, yeah, we're going to go off on a tangent if I reply. Sure.
yeah. Sure.
Moving on.
Moving on. All right, fine. I want to start out here.
Look at him.
Look
Look at this man.
Go ahead and read this.
I
to
love
me.
him. Mr. Dr. Senator Rand Paul. My oath of office is to the U.S. Constitution, not to any foreign nation. Congress is trying yet again to ram through a spending bill, one that I doubt anyone has actually read,
Yeah.
and there's no oversight included into how the money is being spent. All I requested is an amendment to be included in the final bill that allows for the Inspector General to oversee how funds are spent. Anyone who is opposed to this is irresponsible. While I sympathize with the people of Ukraine and commend their fight against Putin, we cannot continue to spend money we don't have. Passing this bill brings the total we've sent to Ukraine to nearly $54 billion over the course of 2 months. It's threatening our own national security, and it's frankly a slap in the face to the millions of taxpayers who are struggling to buy gas, groceries, and find baby formula. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree with Mr. Paul. Dr. Paul. Sorry, Dr. Paul.
I've always liked the Pauls, but that shouldn't be surprising to anybody here. But
I liked his dad. I think he's a douchebag, but
he's a bit of a douche, but that doesn't mean he's wrong.
yeah,
I'll give
love
him
his
credit
dad,
on
yeah.
this.
Yeah.
But there's plenty of other stuff I think he's douching
Like,
up on. But this is
we're
fine.
we're doing way too much stuff in this Ukraine thing. I mean, if we're gonna go to war, we need to just do it.
well,
We need to
already
stop
are.
with these.
We are.
I know, but we need to actually do it. We need to do it properly through the Constitution, the way it's supposed to be done, or we need to stop. Because all this meddling is going to do is probably in the end make everything worse. Because it always does. It always does.
But this is part of the craziness of this whole thing, right? Is because the original amount was like 30 billion. And then there was a push from like the Republicans saying like, oh, no, we need more military spending as part of that. And then there's this law that or this like policy that requires them to have an equal amount of like humanitarian aid to equal the military spending. So like that bloated it by an extra like 10, 12 billion or something like that, right? So like there's a lot.
Partisan issue. That's true. Yeah.
So there's a lot that needs oversight on this, right?
Yeah.
In that regard. So this is where again Thundero and I circle back around and we agree. You know,
Well,
it happens on occasion.
There's a couple of things that come to my mind for this. The best little comment he made here is the one where he says, one that I doubt anyone has actually read.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so true.
It is.
Yeah,
that's a
very
problem.
true. It's a problem, dude. Yeah.
We almost need a constitutional amendment, genuinely, that declares that bills can only be so long. That they can be read within, I don't know, a reasonable amount of time, 10 minutes,
Or they
right?
be
A reasonable
read
amount of time.
publicly in the Congress.
And they can be read publicly, and there should be a version of them that the layperson can understand without much tutoring.
How about a requirement that the bill itself like only contains like parts relevant to what the bill is actually designed to accomplish, rather than
Oh yeah,
Are you
Absolutely.
talking about pork barrel? No.
Oh,
yeah. Let's get rid of pork.
No.
Yeah,
That's why I was against the infrastructure plan that Biden was putting forward. Not because I'm against infrastructure, but because it was so bloated with just stuff that had nothing to do with bridges and roads. Like, can we please just fix the damn bridges and roads? I think Biden could literally guarantee re-election if he passed a simple infrastructure bill
No.
that was in 5-10 years
Well,
fix the roads. I'm telling you,
that's-
that's how bad it is.
That's the part of the process that really annoys me, is because the Republicans, I think, like negotiate in bad faith, in that they negotiate to add stuff to the bill that is porkish. Then they vote against the bill, and when it passes, they take credit for the bill. Like, it's this like really twisted system.
I agree with you, but don't leave the Democrats out, because yes, the
Yeah.
Republicans
happy
may
to
be
shit on the-
porkish, but the Democrats are dumb.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, I mean,
No.
the Democrats do it themselves too. I'm not going to argue with that. You know,
Yes.
you're absolutely
Well,
correct.
But because we all agree they suck. I think so.
Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
the thing that actually pisses me off, and I mean actually, because you guys know I don't actually get angry. I mean, I play an angry dude. on
Unless
the
somebody
YouTube.
gives you a straw that you didn't, a paper straw, then
Oh my god! I fucking hate those things. But no, seriously, the thing that actually pisses me off. I know this might be a surprise to you, but I'd rather not have war.
yeah, I'm against
People
that.
dying,
Yeah.
and
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
kind of
totally.
against it.
I had enough of that, I think.
Yeah, just so you know. But because we had a point here about a month into this whole little debacle over in Ukraine, and I'm not going to get into a big talk about it, and all this nonsense that the Duma and Putin are just stupid, crazy, evil people who lost their mind. It's dumb. It's dumb. The shit's been going on for centuries. But anyway, we were about a month or so, maybe 6 weeks in, and this war was done. It was going to be done. Right, there was going to be
Yep.
they were going to come to the table, and concessions were going to be made for the Donbass area, and it's done. Right, it was going to be done. I'm sure things would have flared up here or there, and the process takes decades. Right, but now, because of all this stupid spending and all this war hawkery and all this, where America is and other NATO nations are literally in there fighting war, literally. Right, we are at war. Do not be mistaken. We are. And if Russia were to make a retaliation, I wouldn't be surprised, because we are literally at war with them. However, what they've done now is they've forced the Duma to do something that they had no intentions of doing, because now the Russians have no choice. They have to take all of Ukraine now.
Yep.
And that was obviously, and of course, not the fact that they were saying many times themselves, but just from their actions, they weren't interested in doing that. But now they're being forced to. So how many more thousands of Ukrainian men and Russian men are going to die for this stupid politic? Because why are these damn politicians doing this? I know the Democrats are doing it so they can find something to latch onto to hopefully keep a seat in Congress here or there. Yeah, so politics, wonderful. Dead people for politics. But it
Yep.
really fucking irritates me to the nth degree, because this war should have been done already. It should be in negotiations. Ceasefire should have already happened a freaking month ago, dude. Right? And look where we are. Because I'm telling you, in 2 weeks, maybe in the beginning of June, this thing's going to light up. Because the Russians have been forced to where they have to make actual war now.
Well,
It's
what they're
gonna
going
get
to end
ugly.
up doing is they got China at their back, right?
Sure.
Literally. What they're going to end up doing, and if this is already happening, they're going to renegotiate their defensive deals with China, basically to make sure their backdoor is secure as it can be, and they're going to commit because they haven't fully committed.
Well, they have no
They're going
choice
to.
now, dude. They're
Exactly.
being forced to.
And it's going to get 100 times worse if that happens.
Oh my God!
Because
it's gonna be
if
bad.
they go all out war,
I guarantee
it's gonna get
Poland's
ugly.
going to be pulled into this. I guarantee it, dude.
Yeah.
And here's
Yeah.
the thing. You know who's going to win in the end? You know who's going to win? It's certainly not the West, because they're already suffering. Do keep in mind, Putin's popularity is actually up, and their GDP is fucking up. Right?
Yep.
All those
Making money.
concessions. You know who's going to win out of this? China. China's going to be the one that wins at the end of this, dude.
Because here's what typically
what a
happens
brilliant strategy, Washington.
in these intercontinental conflicts when they actually escalate to a point of being a genuine issue. Not like our adventurism in the Middle East, where basically no one really cared what we were doing over there. They made some noise, but not really. Well, this is a place where people care. One, it's right on Russia's border. Two, China has been pushing and pushing and pushing against the U.S. very hard. We've been pushing back too, but let's be honest, they've been doing a lot of pushing themselves.
Mhm.
So now we have a geopolitical situation where we have a rising power, or at least one that pretends itself to be a rising power, who desperately wants to knock off the big guy, right? They want to knock off the top lion. So it makes them look really, really good if we look really, really bad.
Oh yeah.
That is how world wars start. That's how it happens. It doesn't happen for anything else. We can talk about invasions and breaking treaties and all that. No. When the big guys think they can make the other big guy look really, really bad, that's when it starts.
Mm.
That is what will happen if somebody somewhere doesn't stop it. And we do not want, we
Oh, they're not going
literally
to.
can't. I know,
They're not
we
going to.
literally cannot survive a world war against Russia and China. I know we have a lot of bravado. I know we think we can. We can't. We will lose, and we will lose
Well,
majorly.
I don't know, but it would be costly as hell, dude.
I do.
Yeah.
Because for one, the only way you're going to win that is you'd have to invade Russia. Good luck.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. You know, there is interesting little comment here in the chat from old Dave, and Dave says Metallica needs to throw a free concert over there again. Fight it out in the mosh pit. I would love to see Russian versus China in a mosh pit. That would be awesome. But I have to say, if you he's referencing an event that happened way back, where a bunch of heavy metal bands went over to Russia. Iron Maiden was one of them as well. And I tell you what, Metallica bounced that crowd beautifully, dude. They were bouncing, baby. I mean, no one bounces a crowd like AC/DC. Nobody. They owned that. But Metallica did a pretty good job, man. If you guys have seen that video, and there's what, I don't know, it looks like 1 million people. I don't know how many it is, but it's insane amount. And I've stood in front of 120,000 myself, so I know what a big crowd looks like. That was hundreds of thousands of people. And Metallica, I think even more than Iron, because Iron Maiden can bounce a crowd too, but I mean Metallica just bounced that crowd. It was so beautiful to watch. You know what I mean by bouncing a crowd, right? Meaning literally they're bouncing in rhythm to your
Yeah.
Yeah. I was waiting for somebody else to answer, and I knew what you meant.
Yeah. But I mean, just that vision in my head of watching Metallica bounce that crowd was so a beautiful moment.
One of the coolest things I've ever seen about stuff like that, it was somewhere in Scandinavia, I think Sweden, maybe Norway, but there's a big music festival they have every year, and they do like a traditional, like basically a battle cry. But the way they do it is they start clapping in unison, and there's so many people you can literally watch the wave of the motion, right?
Sure.
Because it starts at the front and works its way at the back. It doesn't basically instantly, but because of sound and things, you can't actually do it instantly.
No,
and it just looks so cool. It's such a cool thing to.
It is cool, and AC/DC cheats though. Just to let you know, AC/DC certainly cheats because they have the best opening song ever created ever for an arena. Oh my God, Thunderstruck, dude. There is not a better song to open a freaking concert to. My God.
What about For Those Who Are About to Rock?
It's a good song, dude. There's a lot of great songs from many bands, but no song will start out a concert and bounce that crowd like Thunderstruck. Nothing. It's just music.
Thunderstruck is an amazing song.
It's freaking amazing, dude. But just go watch any AC/DC video where they're playing any song, but just watch Thunderstruck and watch the bounce of that crowd. It's freaking bring tear to your eyes, dude.
Can I circle back around to some of the stuff Thundero was saying, that world wars don't happen because of multiple unprovoked invasions or violations of peace treaties, but because of a country posturing and making another country feel bad about itself? Is that what we're sticking with here?
That's not what I said.
That's the essence of what you were saying.
No. The way geopolitics is basically high school. And the idea that we can get along with everybody is silly. It's nonsensical. Eventually, someone is going to have the notion that they want to be the king of the land. They want to be the big dog. America has been the big dog for a very long time. We haven't had anybody the Soviet Union, I guess, but we took them out 40 years ago. I mean, really. They were done in the mid-'80s, in all honesty. So they've been gone for a long time, so we haven't really had any geopolitical competition. So we've kind of forgotten what that looks like. So, what do I mean when a world war gets started because somebody thinks they can make the other guy look bad? World War II. World War II was not started because Hitler invaded somewhere. World War II was started because Churchill needed to keep the balance of power in Europe. That's why. He knew that if he went to war with Germany, he could probably drag us in, which he tried many times before we got dragged in, and he wanted to make sure that no one threatened the balance of power in Europe, because for a very long time, very, very, very long time, there was a nice little balance of power, and guess who sat at the top of it near the end there? Britain did. The British Empire did.
Well,
So he wanted to make sure no one else could rise up and smack him and knock them off.
The greatest evil of the end of the 19th and beginning of the 20th century was certainly Britain. Yeah, without question.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But
so when you have here's the cocktail that creates international conflict that would escalate into what we call a world war. You have rising power who, like Nazi Germany was, they were militarizing and they were rising, who is obstinate. And then you have an old hegemon who will not tolerate that obstinance.
Yeah.
Who will not talk to them, who will not tolerate it at all and has no room for it. So what happens is one or the other kicks it off and gets it to the point where it becomes a fight. In this case, if we keep getting involved in Russia's affairs, which is, let's be honest, that's what it is. At the end of the day, it's Russia's neighbor. Ukraine is the smaller power. So it's on the geopolitical stage, it's Russia's affairs. Russia and their big buddy right next behind them, who literally, I remind you, during COVID threatened to shut off our antibiotics, said they were just going to stop shipping them over here. So they want us gone. Don't be mistaken. If China sees for a second a chance to make us look weak, genuinely weak, not just a little weak here or there, like President Pudding Brain or President Bombastic Trump, but genuinely where we cannot control the seas anymore, because that's why America controls the world, is because we control the oceans. The air is also important, but the ocean is where most of the trade that matters comes through. If they, and they've been pushing on this in the South China Sea for a long time, if they can make us look weak and make us look vulnerable, they know that every time throughout history, when the hegemon falls, someone rises to take the place. And it's usually the place that produces everything. It was us, now it's them. They are desperate to knock us off. So if they think they can get us into a situation of an actual quagmire with an ally of theirs, of course they're going to let that happen, and they're going to want that to happen, and they're going to do everything they can to facilitate Russia making us look bad. Because the objective for China is to take our spot. They're not, it's not even a secret. They're open about it. They say it in mass public forums. Xi Jinping has said it publicly.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
They want to be the king of the mountain.
They do.
We've had what, 80 years or so now where besides the Soviet Union, nobody really challenged America. We've had 40 years where nobody really challenged America. That's over. And if we allow the rising power to goad us, whether it's by proxy or direct action, and they've been trying direct action. That's what look at what's happening in the South China Sea. Ben, you've even said they're constantly attacking us, constantly, cybernetically, through the cyberspace. They want to blacken our eyes enough that we cannot respond. And then they get to take the throne. They want the power.
I'm probably the only cybernetic person here.
But my point is the reason why world wars start is largely because certain countries, the hegemon or the rising power, needs to make the other look bad in a geopolitical sense so they can isolate them. That's why. And that's what China wants to do.
I completely disagree. I think you're taking an incredibly reductive approach to the whole thing, right?
Oh, wow. So whose fault is it? I blame Bhutan.
So, I think what causes a world war is a large collection of tinderboxes within an isolated region, right? Mm-hmm. Europe has a lot of different, powers centralized in there. And I think part of the problem here is, and I don't think you can easily compare it to like World War II because it's a little bit different, but in the sense of, we have Putin who, let's be honest, he's on the decline. We've pretty much confirmed that he's got cancer of some kind. Blood cancer is what it seems like most relevant, right? He had that really awkward public interview he did where he sat at a desk for 13 minutes and he had to brace himself at the bottom of the desk to stop himself from shaking, right? Mm-hmm. And Putin himself has, glorious memories of the power and honor that the Soviet Union commanded back in its heyday, prior to the fall of the Soviet Union, right? This is very much akin to Hitler's rise to power, and in Germany, their belief of their position prior to World War I, right, in which they paid a heavy price for, and there's a lot of hurt sentiment as a result, right? So you had Germany fall in World War I, you had the Soviet Union fall at the fall of their grace. There are equivalents happening of a power falling, and that the previous generation or an older generation has these calls to glory, and I think that's what Putin's trying to do in this situation. I mean, I'm not going to disagree with you that China is probably fanning the flames, because that's what China does, right? They're terrible exacerbators of all these things, right? But trying to say that we shouldn't help a region that was unprovoked and attacked
that's
is
not true. Take that back. Take that back.
provoked in what way? You got to be real careful.
I'm sorry. 8 years of attacking their own citizenry in the Donbass and murdering over 14,000 people. I call that provocation, Ben.
Okay, the Donbass is a whole different conversation.
No, it's not. It's the whole point.
Well, I mean, what was the reason for invading Crimea, right?
Why?
This is
to protect, because they had a operating contract with Ukraine, and when the Maidan revolution popped off, the Russians like, "Ooh, we better secure that." That's it. Just to secure their naval port, because otherwise they'd be stuck up at another naval port that gave them less access and more difficult from getting locked in. When you get into the frustrations of the Russians and it comes to naval ports, that's a little bit of an in-depth conversation, but it is something that bugs them and bothers them. So the reason they took Crimea was completely military based, right? So fair enough. I'm not going to argue with that. But you got to understand what's been going on, right? Like Mariupol, which has been basically freed of the Azov in general. You have the Western media. Oh, the poor people of Mariupol, and of course they are poor because war sucks. But here's the thing: the people of Mariupol had voted and were going to join in with Crimea with Russia during the Maidan Revolution, if you don't remember. And what did the Ukrainians do? Well, they sent the Azov battalion in to shut it down. We don't even know how many people have died over the past 8 years in Mariupol because of that. With the Russians coming in, the people of Mariupol are absolutely ecstatic. The people in Donbass are having freaking parades because the first time in 8 years they're not getting shot at, right? So it's legitimate. Now, and you mentioned Putin's decline. I agree. But what you're missing with that is that, yes, and the Duma and other powerful people in the politic of Russia are starting to be able to push their desires more, and Putin has to respond to them. So yes, his decline is affecting things on the Russian side, right?
Yeah.
Because trust me, there's plenty of people in the Duma who would love just to make war. Right? Period. And Putin is actually the one holding them back. And it kills me that these assholes all across the West are kind of, Putin's a crazy person. He's incontinent or whatever fucking shit. He's the only thing keeping Europe from blowing the fuck up right now, dude.
Yep. The number 2 guy behind Putin, I think he's number 2. He's one of them up there. Is a hardcore, what you were just talking about, everything you were just talking about, he's 10 times worse than Putin.
Oh, dude,
he's a hardcore imperialist, Russian nationalist imperialist, and he desperately wants to rebuild the Soviet Empire.
They do, and that's the thing, because Putin is reduced. He is reduced. He used to have an iron grip on it, but he's losing that authority. So he's he's having to negotiate now. And that's why they're going on in here. And the thing is, the Ukraine, this has been going on for centuries, dude. What's been going on in that area. That place is so war-torn, it's not even funny, right? This is 100% provoked. 100%. Now, I would love to see diplomatic action, but the Russians have been doing diplomatic action since 1998. To prevent this kind of thing. And what does the NATO do? Of course, backed by America, they just keep encroaching, breaking their treaties left and right. Now we know Americans can't keep no goddamn treaty. We know we
No, we're
break
pretty
treaties
bad at
constantly.
that.
We're horrible.
Yeah.
We're completely
Yeah.
dishonest in that way. But to sit and say that this is not provoked is ridiculous, because it is provoked.
Yep.
It is 100% provoked. And I'm not taking a side on who I want, because I don't want war. But I understand 100% what the Russians are doing, and
Yes.
in many ways, I'm kind of thankful for Putin, because it would be so much worse if he wasn't in there, dude. It would be so much worse. And the thing is, when he does lose power or dies or whatever, whoo, man, you got to keep in mind the Russians understand this as well, right? His popularity has not waned; it's strengthened, because the Russian people are aware what's going on. And they know Putin's trying to mitigate the situation. The Russians aren't stupid any more than the
All
American
of this-
people. We know we got dumbasses in Washington.
All of this does have eerie similarities to World War II, like Ben, you were saying. And that's what should worry you. Because it wasn't because Hitler invaded whatever the place, I think it was Poland, where they
Poland.
decided, oh, now we have to do something. No, they were planning to do something already. Churchill wanted a war with Germany because he didn't like Hitler. He thought Hitler was dangerous because he would upset the power.
Well, he was right.
That was it. He was absolutely he was right. I'm not saying Churchill was wrong at all. I think Churchill probably, again, remember how I said that Abraham Lincoln, he did the wrong thing for the right reason? Churchill's the opposite. He did the right thing, or I'm sorry, he did the wrong thing for the right reason as well, but in a different direction. So he was correct that Hitler was a power disruptor, as some historians would call him, or a systems dismantler, because he was in Nazism absolutely was a dismantling of the systems.
Toward the end there, it got real bad. Yeah.
So Churchill wasn't wrong to be afraid of that, especially considering literally the King of England was on board with Hitler at the time, right before his scandal, and he had to step down.
Mahatma Gandhi was his pen pal.
Yes, Hitler was an absolute systems destroyer. He was correct about that. World War II started to prevent him from dismantling the European system that had been in place for fucking ever at that point. I mean, pretty much every British war in Europe for up to that point, for like a few hundred years before it, was basically to try and maintain the status quo. They didn't want to disrupt the power balance, because that power balance disrupted the entire world economy, because they controlled the entire world economy, whether France, Britain, Germany at one point, and the Dutch controlled and the Spanish controlled basically the entire world economy for a very long time, because the Chinese had isolated themselves and cut themselves off of the thing because for some reason.
Well, that's what they do.
Yeah, and that's what they do. And Japan was completely isolated at the time too. They started to open up, but not totally, and they definitely weren't the economic power they are now.
Right.
So that's why this stuff happens. It's because when I say save face, I'm not talking about like an insult. I'm talking about power is a phantom, right? Actual political power isn't real. It only exists because everybody agrees to it. We have that idea in our government that power comes from the consent of the governed. All power does, because everybody agrees. Everybody agrees that the U.S. government, well, not everybody, but enough people agree that the U.S. government should be in charge.
You're talking about the social contract. Come on, moving on.
Yes.
Your soapbox.
Those particular people are the reason why, and that's everybody, the people with a capital P, are the reason why they must save face on a geopolitical stage. If you're the hegemon, like Britain was at the time, if you were the world's reserve currency, like Britain was at the time, a power disruptor like Hitler is dangerous. You can't have that, especially right on your own back door. You can't be having that. And I think part of the reason why Putin is doing what he's doing is he sees not so much Zelensky or Ukraine as a threat to the system, he sees NATO as a threat to his system, right or wrong. So he doesn't want NATO in his back door. And their moves to Ukraine, their gestures to the Ukrainians, and obviously the revolution that happened 8 years ago now, those are all to him a threat, and to the Duma a threat. I think Chester's right. I think Putin doesn't want war. I said that from the beginning. I think Putin also doesn't want to be basically displaced in power by the Duma. And they do want war. And there are a lot of nationalists, and not nationalists in like American nationalists who a lot of them are against war, nationalists in like the old nation, what they see as they consider, a lot of people in Russia consider Ukraine part of Russia.
Yeah,
I mean, the country was founded there, for crying out loud.
it was.
So for
founded by
them
Muscovy,
to take the Ukraine, that's their land in their
Right,
in
I
their
mean, like,
eyes.
Ukraine's like 800 years older than Moscow. Yeah, I mean, you're
Yes.
right.
No,
about
you're
that,
right.
Right.
Yeah,
Correct.
absolutely.
Yeah.
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 So
I mean,
when
but-
you have that type of imperialistic nationalism, which Russians actually have in their government right now, and you have a guy like Putin who is just a corrupt business oligarch, he just wants to make money. That's what Putin cares about, is enriching himself and enriching Russia tangentially. But really mostly himself. He's one of the richest men in the world. War is expensive. Now, right now, it's paying off for him because the Russian people like him. And so they kind of come together and are working to keep their economy as together as possible. But if this war goes too long, Russia doesn't have the economic foundation to fund a long war. They just
Actually,
don't. Everybody
I think
knows
they
it.
do.
You think so?
Because
What?
no, I do, and the reason I say this is, well, one, you notice their GDP is up, not down, right? So
Yeah.
all those restrictions did nothing, and by NATO, let's just say America, shall we?
Mhm.
But by America pushing and demanding nothing but total war, and demanding and forcing Russia into taking all of Ukraine, it's basically shown the Russians that there are no more negotiations with the West. So therefore, what are they going to do? They're going to push themselves into Asia, and there's a lot of money to be had there. A lot, and do
It's
keep in
true.
mind, the Russians saw this coming. By the way, for all those people who like to say that, oh, well, Putin just lost his mind and just made war. No, stop it. Stop it. You're embarrassing yourself. The Russians have known what was going to happen. They predicted it and they prepared for it. Do understand, through Kyrgyzstan and down into the Turkish pipelines and all those other pipelines, the Russians have been securing and promoting the growth of pipelines. Where? To the west? No, to the east.
Yeah.
They can move
Yeah, I
all
mean-
their oil, all they want, into the east. They can move all of their nickel and all of their various mineral-based wealth, all of their agricultural-based wealth. They can sell it. China is sitting there open-mouthed, agape, wanting it. The Russians have plenty of outlets for their resources, dude. Plenty.
That's true. That's
But
true.
that's also part of the reason for this, is because they've recently found massive reserves in the sea next to Ukraine that would put them in competition for Russia
Fair.
as part of an energy provider. And Russia sees that as a threat to their dominance as an energy provider.
Sure.
Right. And
into Europe anyway. Sure.
Into-
I'm not
no,
going to argue that.
absolutely.
Yeah. I'm not going to
yeah,
argue that.
absolutely into
Yeah.
Europe. Right. And
Um,
so, as far as Russians seeing Ukrainian as part of Russia and stuff like that, let's not forget that Ukraine was absorbed violently into the Soviet Union. They weren't a founding member. They were basically absorbed into the Soviet Union. They weren't part of the a willing factor going into that originally.
That's not
right?
100% true, though. Right?
That's true
No,
enough.
Western
Come on.
Ukraine, that is true, 100%. But Western Ukraine was also in bed with the Nazis, right? Literally.
Yeah.
That's why the Russians keep saying it, right?
Yeah.
Eastern Ukraine, however, was very, very much pro-Russian. So yes, there is truth to what you're saying, but it's not 100%.
But it's very similar to the Middle East.
Fair enough. But keep in mind,
Very similar to the Middle East, though. It really shouldn't be our problem. This is a thing that has been going on in this region for centuries,
Oh my
1,000
God,
years
yes,
at least.
Well, keep in
This
mind.
back and forth, and we shouldn't be getting involved in it. Is my whole point.
No, that's fair. But
That's
I mean,
fair.
keep
Yeah,
in
I'll
mind
agree with
this
that.
whole Kiev or Kyiv, if you want to go with the Jewish spelling. But keep in mind that what is the original name of that place, and who are those people? The Kievan Rus.
That's right.
The Russians
Just
come from
Chester, have
them.
you seen
They
Northman?
are the Russians. For fuck's sake, dude.
Shut up. That you just.
They
Chester,
are,
have you
dude. Go
seen
look at the history.
Northman?
I did a whole TFT on it. I laid it out very, very clearly, Ben. The Russians
It's true.
are them. They
Yeah,
come from
they're-
them.
The same. But Chester,
Okay.
have you seen Northman yet?
No, I want to though.
Ah, bro, a big part of it is he's in Rus. He's in the land of Rus at
Would-
the start of the movie. It's pretty cool.
Would you
Anyway.
be as sympathetic if
Yeah, okay.
Mexico invaded Texas, wanting a portion of Texas back?
I would understand the motivation, but then I'd also we would
A
have
huge
to
portion of
negotiate.
the population, especially at the southern border, is Mexican descent.
Sure.
Texas used to be part of Mexico. Like,
Yeah.
there are pretty easy equivalencies that you could draw here from both a geopolitical perspective, a historical perspective, a logical perspective, right? So there's plenty of equivalence there, but we would love you, buddy. Good night. We would absolutely not allow for that. We
Sure.
wouldn't allow Mexico
you.
to invade. And
Ben, you're so awesome. Thank you for making my point.
what do you mean I'm making my point?
No, you're making mine.
Oh my god. All right. What trickery are we doing here? What do you got?
No trickery. The Russians have been in control of that region since the Poles and the Lithuanians pushed in and took the territory, and they escaped to the east to a little teeny town that had survived not only the Polish and Lithuanian push, but also the frickin' goddamn Golden Horde was coming in there with Tamerlane and stuff like that, beating and burning cities left and right throughout the entire region. They all escaped over to the little town called Muscovy, right? And they rebuilt themselves and came back over time. There were a couple of northern cities in Ukraine that did survive, what we call Ukraine today. So they've been ruling themselves out of Muscovy for a very, very long time. Yeah. So the fact that it's gone back and forth between Poland, Lithuania, the combination of the two, and then the mighty Soviets, just goes to prove the point. Ukraine is part of Russia. It just is now, right? Now I understand the argument because technically Russia comes from there. I get it, right? Just as a lot of Texans come from Mexico. I get it, and I also understand the Ukrainians making noise. I understand it. I also understand any Mexican saying we want Texas back in Arizona and New Mexico and California, even though it was purchased. I get it, but just as the Russians, we would fight to keep it.
Wait, okay, so you're within my analogy, you're sympathetic to the Mexico part of the analogy?
Did I not explain myself? I thought I was
No,
pretty clear.
no, you didn't explain yourself well enough.
What I'm saying is, I understand the Ukrainians getting upset. I understand a comment that might come from Mexico. I do, but ultimately, those have been absorbed into the greater body. Is my point. But do keep in mind, you have to keep a very important point from I said in the very beginning, Ben. I don't want war. There's no
I don't
need
want
for
war
this.
either.
This could have been stopped already. There's no reason they're still fighting over there. The only reason is because America wants them to. The government wants them to. That's it. Right? Because we saw Zelensky come out and basically give the concessions, and it looked like they were going to have a sit down and be done with it. And then all of a sudden he pulled it all back. Wonder why?
Okay, I'm back.
I don't think that's the case.
I think
There's
it
a
is
lot
the
of
case.
there's a lot of evidence that there are pushes in Mexico to effectively do just that. Now, obviously, they get stomped. They can't even beat cartels down there.
No.
But there is sentiment to that effect.
Of course.
They want Texas back. They want
All across
California
America.
back.
Yes,
La
I live in
Raza.
Texas. Yeah.
La Raza is a thing. Yeah, 100%, Ben.
Right.
And listen, I understand every conquered people or people who've have a heritage where they want that they see that as theirs, part of their birthright or whatever. I understand that wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
It doesn't make it so. Like, I understand why a lot of Russian people support war in Ukraine just as much as I would understand why those Mexicans would support war in Texas or Arizona or whatever.
Sure.
Saying it is,
Give the Black Hills back.
I respect,
Yes.
Per the Budapest Accords, right? Treaties were signed, and the whole thing about like non-expanding like NATO, that actually wasn't ever written in any of the treaties, so like that's not actually a thing. NATO can expand just fine, right? That's all bullshit. That never actually was written anywhere. But the point being is that Ukraine was per per the agreement of the Soviet Union, Ukraine was made a sovereign country. The borders were established.
Mhm.
And just because the Soviet Union's got a bug up their butt because they feel now that they're due part of it, that's not how this fucking works.
Well, no, that
Right.
you're right in that way. They're trying to put a patriotic spin on it. I agree with that 100%. But the
Yeah.
reason the war is happening is not because of that, though. It's not.
Mhm.
And the real big push that so many Russians are actually supporting is because, they did have another treaty accord that was set up after the Maidan Revolution in 2000. What was that?
14?
15? No, 2015. The treaties were put in place.
Oh, okay.
And
Yeah,
the treaty was that they would stop the fighting. Did they? No, not even for a day.
There's even
Literally not
video
even
of
for a day.
Zelensky going to that region to basically tell these people to stop, and they just refused. They said, "No, we're not going to stop."
It's
He
true.
in
He doesn't
fairness to
have
Zelensky,
control. Yeah.
he was trying to stop it, but he's a tiny little
Yeah,
manlet of a man.
But out of
He
the
can't
other
stop
side of
them.
his face, he's saying if you support, this is before the war, by the way, if you
Yeah.
support Russia, then go to fucking Russia and get the fuck out of Ukraine. That's also
Yes.
Zelensky. But I'll
Yes.
give him credit for that because they don't control the Akirs battalion or the Azov battalion or these other
No.
battalions. They don't have control of these militia is a problem. Because one thing I've noticed while watching this is the actual Ukrainian proper professional armies, the soldiers and army of Ukraine, and the Russian proper, professional army. I'm not talking Chechens, so don't go there. But they've been able to communicate quite well, right? And what you're seeing going on quite a bit is a lot of the Ukrainian soldiers are actually having their families and they're moving them to Russia, not Poland.
Yeah.
Russia. Now that's interesting. Why is that happening? These are Ukrainian soldiers who are fighting Russian soldiers, but they've communicated, and the Russians have made it very clear that anybody from Ukraine who comes into Russia will be taken care of. And they backed it up by doing it. Now, once again, I'm not taking anything away from Poland because Poland's awesome. They're the only ones who look good out of all of this whole damn thing. It's Poland, right? Because
They
good
usually
on them.
do.
Good on them.
They usually do.
But yeah, it's not as simple as the news reporters and politicians put it up as Putin's crazy man. It's
I didn't say
stupid,
Putin was
dude.
crazy. That was never part of my
Well, I know
you know-
you. I'm talking about the general discord, right?
No,
Well,
I mean,
my water's boiling. You can go ahead and yell at me now.
This water's boiling.
um,
Uh,
I will agree. It is incredibly complex, and it is incredibly there's a lot of moving pieces to it, right? I'm not going to disagree with that. My
Mhm.
point is simply that we can't have countries deciding that, for instance, over in Europe, right, there's a lot of free movement between the countries, and you can't have people deciding that they're going to take a chunk out of Germany because there's a higher proportion of Swedish people, living in a particular region or something like that, right? History is useful here to a degree, but
Oh, that's shade. I caught that
Huh?
shade.
I mean, yes, there was a little bit of shade to it. I'm not going to disagree with that. But my point being is that within the complexities of this, there was, the treaty that was signed and that it was maintained and agreed long enough, what are we into now here? 30 years, 40 years for it? That it should stand within the borders that they have, and that if they want to, here's what I get confused on is because, there's other better economic ways that they could have handled this. Like, for instance,
Yeah.
Ukraine doesn't have the infrastructure to actually, mine the reserves that they had. I don't know why Russia didn't offer to go into a deal with them to, mine it for them. And that ultimately ended up having to be, I don't even think it was Western people. I think it was UK affiliates who ended up having to, do the initial stuff. But anyways, my point being is that I don't think that it's just China, like, exacerbating things for the purposes of taking us out of the top dog. Although I will agree that they're trying to do that, right? I'm completely on board with that, right? You guys know what I do for a living. I have a lot of, background knowledge of what's happening with this and all of the hacking and stuff. I mean, that's what's really is being used to undermine us. But it's far more that than this situation, like 1,000%.
Yeah.
But God, I lost my train of thought on this. We were going so many fucking tangents on it.
Well, let me smooth it out for you a little bit then, Ben. If you remember when, 20 years ago, about 20 years ago, Putin came in, right?
Yeah.
What did he do initially? What was his initial push? What was it that he was trying to do? Because he had a lot of power and a lot of authority and a lot of popular support, right? What was he trying to do if we go back in time and take a look at it? Well, what he was really trying to do is be super friendly with the West. He was trying to open trade. He was, and he successfully, why he's so beloved by the Russians, he was able to get rid of all those ugly oligarchs, although technically he became one himself. But he was
Became
able
the only
to.
one. He became the
Well,
biggest one, right?
But in doing so, he raised the fortunes of Russians. But what was he trying to do politically? He was trying really, really hard, and it came very close to happening, to joining the UN, and possibly even in doing so, getting rid of NATO. Because why was NATO created again? Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
we all know.
But that's what Putin wanted to do. And the West should have embraced that, but they couldn't because they have so many political persons who are forever and eternally against Russia. And no matter what you do, Russia's evil, right? And it didn't come to fruition. And then we had the first kickoff in Ukraine. Then we had later the Maidan revolution, and then 8 years of war against the Ukrainian people. It's a civil war been going on, right? 8 years. Right, and I've mentioned that several times on this channel since I've been doing it before this the Russian attack took place. So Putin very clearly wanted to bring Russia into the fold and be part of the West, is what he wanted to do, and we should have embraced it. Because the whole time Putin has been fighting against these old Soviet war dogs that want those old nostalgic times back. And people keep blaming him to be that. Oh, Putin's the one, the KGB agent that wants the old Soviet Union back. If you look at what he's done, it's clearly not true. He has tried very hard to make Russia a modern Western democracy. He's tried, and he's been foiled at every attempt to do so. And now, here, 20 years on, where his power is weakened and waning, those war hawks are still there, and he's trying to manage the situation. And unfortunately, I don't think that he's going to be able to. Right? This is what we're looking at happening. This is another opportunity missed by the West because of their stupid ham-fistedness. Right? That's what we're looking at. We should not be in this situation. Russia should be our buddy and friends. There's no reason for this. There's no reason. But yet here we are because of stupid politics and stupid racism, particularly coming out of I'll get in trouble. I won't say it. But this is where we are, Ben. Right? So you need to take that into account when you're looking at what's happening.
I'm not going to disagree with that, right? And let me clarify my stance a little bit. I do want us to take a back seat to it. When this first happened, I don't know if I said it here, but I said it plenty of other places. I wanted the EU to take more of an approach into this because it's much more, their position, or it's much more within their geopolitical interests, right?
Yeah.
And it's one of the things that really frustrates me from a global political perspective is that people complain so much about the U.S. being involved in everything, which is true, and I'm totally fine with that. But then when shit hits the fan like this, and everyone's like, "Well, where's the U.S.?" Like, fuckers, like. You gotta this
handle your business.
I agree with
that.
you
gotta go handle your business, right? Like for instance, you guys know I'm not a big Trump fan. I think he's a fucking idiot, right? But when he complained about other NATO powers not holding up their end, there's truth to that, and that's fine to call that out, right? But this, if this incursion was to decrease, their likelihood of joining the West and joining NATO. Well, guess what? We got Poland and Finland looking at it. It's having the opposite effect, right? People are much more interested in NATO than they ever were prior to this happening, right?
Mhm.
So this is why, it exacerbates things from, when you talk about a world war perspective, right? It's having the opposite effect.
Yeah, but you're cutting Putin's legs off by doing that, though, because he's trying to keep
Cutting its own legs
peace.
off.
No, he's not, dude. The people in the West really don't understand Putin at all or what he's doing. And all you have to do is
Mhm.
just go watch his speeches and see what he's doing and understand the pressures he's under.
Talking about, but before this, like Finland and Poland weren't thinking about joining NATO. Now they're thinking about it.
Yeah, but I'm
He's
saying by
he's done this to
them,
himself.
I get that, and he's been forced into this situation. However, by having Finland, they might take Finland. They won't take Sweden, but they might take Finland. But the thing is, by doing that, you're basically Putin's going to lose power, dude, and you're going to have the war dogs come in, and it's just
Yeah,
going to
it's
get
something way
bad.
worse.
It's going to get much worse. This
Yeah.
is not helping. We should have embraced Russia. We were pushing against them during the Cold War. Communism's bad, and they finally got out from under it. We should have embraced them. We should have helped them in any way we could. But what did we do? We abandoned them. And what did we? We immediately started going to all the little satellite states that the Soviets gobbled up, right? And started helping them and being with them. And we did nothing for fucking Russia, dude.
Well, I
Nothing.
mean, this goes back to bad American sentiment about anything communist related. Like
I
if you,
agree.
any communist country, and we get a real bad hate on for them,
Right,
and we
but
end up
we
like
won.
hyper-mixing.
Therefore, now help them. Look what
No,
we
I
did
under-
to Japan. What
no,
Japan? So
we're agreeing, right?
Okay.
Like look at Cuba. Like, why do we still have the policies that we have against Cuba? Right? There's no reason to do.
It was
this, but
literally the only thing I 100% agreed with Obama was opening the door to
yeah,
Cuba.
absolutely, dude.
That was the
Yeah.
right decision. It should have been happened before I was even born. It should have happened. Like, it's ridiculous.
we got this stupid leftover mentality about anything communist related, right? And let's be realistic, that exacerbates our relationships with China. Like, China's not capitalist, right? They are a communist country.
Sure.
There's a lot of their economics, there's a lot of their businesses that are controlled by the government, right?
All of
But
them.
yeah, exactly. And that's my point, is that like
Well, that's a lot. Yeah.
yeah. I think my point stands, right, Thundero? Anyways, the point being is that we still have this like leftover Red Scare mentality that is still exacerbating a lot of our relationships, internationally,
Mhm.
right? And we just, for some reason, as a culture, cannot get over that.
Yeah.
I think the main reason for that is the fact that communism is directly related to the deaths of hundreds of millions of people,
Yeah.
and we've been traumatized by it collectively.
Yeah. It's
And I think that's why there's this animus to like Russia, which I 100% agree with you, Chester. I've been calling for an American actual official alliance and trade partnership with Russia for a long time. There's no good reason for us
No.
to still be
we
enemies
should
other
be
than
buddies. We should
old,
be best
old
friends, dude.
hatreds. Imagine what an Amero-Russo alliance could do
Oh my
to
God,
stabilize
dude.
the world. Imagine that.
Yeah, missed opportunities, man. And here we are. But anyway, we could talk, but we've been talking 2 hours on this. So let's actually talk about something that's not war
Oh my
related.
God, your first
Yeah.
topic took us on a wild
I
tangent.
know. Well, that's okay. To be honest, though, Ben, we haven't talked about this anywhere near as much as we should have. I've
No, I
been
agree.
kind of staying away from it. But it's I try to touch it in different ways, like I did the TFT. Well, I don't know, the historical dive into where do the Ukrainians and Russians come from. I did like that and stuff like that. I haven't directly confronted it, but the thing is, it disgusts me. In this way, I agree with Rand Paul 100%.
Yeah.
And it's
Claps for Rand for
Yeah.
being a principled man. At least this time.
So to say
Um,
this time, yeah,
yeah.
okay. I'm glad you agree with that.
No, listen, he is not his father. I
No,
wish he
his
was
dad's
his
awesome.
father. I wish he had half the spine his dad did, but he doesn't.
Yeah.
And
Well, we don't start
I
talking
do
about
like
Ted
him.
Cruz. No Ted Cruz talk.
Oh God, I do like Rand. Don't get me wrong, but when it comes down to it, I know he's a coward. He'll balk every time.
Yeah.
But here, he didn't bulk, so he gets credit. He did the right thing. More senators should have done this. It's ridiculous that it was down to him. There's no reason to spend the American people's money without oversight. That's
No, but
preposterous.
why is it
Period.
we don't have teams in there negotiating peace? Why is that?
I don't know.
Right?
That's a
Now, I
good question.
understand we don't give a shit about the people dying in Ethiopia right now, or Somalia, or Sudan, or Sri Lanka, or any of the other places war is going on. Of
Or
course,
Yemen,
obviously,
you know,
it doesn't matter
yeah.
who gives a shit about the black people. Fuck them.
Or the
I guess.
Browns. Yeah.
Or the Browns.
Yeah.
But whatever. But why aren't we in there pushing the hell out of peace? Because isn't that what we do? Isn't that America?
Supposed to be. That's the story we were told.
Yeah, I don't know, dude. Anyway, I'm moving on. Just so
Moving
you know,
on.
the Zara here, her and her husband, just an update. Her and her husband have been arrested. Of course, we talked about that before, but they've also
Yeah.
been convicted. Good.
That's good.
Burn in freaking hell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, find super hell, burn there.
Yeah.
Find super hell and burn there.
Keep in mind, this is an actress who was in the original Doctor Strange movie. She was one of Mads Mikkelsen's lackeys. But her and her husband, of course, are pedophiles, and they've been put in prison. Good. Moving on.
Tencent reportedly recalling Conan the Barbarian license from Marvel. Ooh. Hey,
Yeah.
wait a minute. Tencent owns son of a bitch!
I know.
Tencent owns everything!
Dude, no, this is why I put this up here. Not that and Tencent just wants to do their own printing. Okay, whatever, fine. I don't care about the story here, but this is the thing. Tencent owns Conan the Barbarian, dude. The
That's a problem.
Chinese own fucking Conan, dude.
That's a problem, Chester. I don't like that. I don't like it. The damn commie. See, now you got me doing it. Damn it.
Ben, you can
Didn't
agree that
didn't
the
take
Chinese
long.
should not own Conan, right? You can agree on that.
Yeah, I'm like
Go ahead.
there's a lot of things I'm kind of along with this, like this is where my nationalism comes through a little bit. Why do we have a lot of Brits playing like classic American heroes?
I don't know, but it pisses me off.
Well, because American actors just want to be famous and British actors want to be great thespians. That's why.
Well, some of them.
It's like
Yeah.
our last two, like, okay, so we had two Spider-Mans, we had a Batman, a Superman, right? We have Doctor Strange. Like, we have so
Two Batmans.
Yeah, two Batmans. No, you're right, two Batmans. So like
There's
like,
no Americans. You can't find no country cornbread fed American little boy from Kansas to play Superman. Because I bet you can.
I bet you
Now,
can.
I love Henry. I love him
awesome.
to death. He's amazing. But I'm damn sick of it. Damn sick of it. Where's the American representation in our superheroes?
Well,
Damn it! Talk about representation. Where's it at?
I don't know if you've
Smoking
noticed, but modern pop culture in America is pretty disgusting. They're vapid,
It has gotten
lame,
bad.
and shallow-brained.
Well, you say modern, but I mean, pop culture's been that for a while.
Yeah,
My
but
whole life, anyway.
It's never been that bad, dude. It's pretty bad. I'm sorry, Grimlock. Go ahead.
They've been off smoking meth. That's where
Yeah.
our Americans at.
It's the meth. Fair
That's a
enough.
problem.
Breaking Bad
Meth
did it.
heads.
But I'm not going to spend much time on this. I did not know that Tencent owned Conan the Barbarian, and it offended me.
Yeah. Offends me too deeply. I don't like it. I don't like it one bit. I don't think what's his name, the guy who created it. I don't think he'd like it. Yeah, he wouldn't be a fan of it.
No,
I'm not a fan of this.
He's our American gay man. That's our gay man. You keep
That's
your hands
right.
off our gay man, China.
Yeah,
Listen,
Howard
China.
did like big oiled pectorals. So
He did.
That's right.
He did.
China, you can do what you want to your gay
Hey.
people. You probably shouldn't. But you can do what you want. They're your gay people. You leave ours alone in the
That's
stuff
right,
they
they're
make.
ours.
just make sure Conan's pectorals are big and oiled at all times. That's all you need to do, China.
And a loincloth. I want to see the loincloth. I want to almost see dick. All right? I want to be
Right,
very close
almost.
to seeing
Very
Tucker.
close. Very
At all
close. The
times.
loincloth, just shadows. But you know that I'm not going to get into it. But the maybe we should talk about Howard one day. That's a sad story, dude. He was such a good writer, so good. I understand a lot of you probably just know Conan from movies and stuff, but go read a Howard book. Doesn't even have to be Conan. Go read Solomon Kane or what have you.
You ever see the Solomon Kane movie? That was actually
It was
pretty
excellent.
decent.
Yeah,
It was
I
really
agree.
good.
Yeah.
It's this gem because it didn't like really open in theaters anywhere, right? And so when I saw it, I was like, oh, there's going to be some like stupid like B C class movie, It was fucking good.
It was excellent. Yeah, it was.
It was far better than it had any right to be. So I was surprised by that. So, but Howard, he suffered mental illness, because he didn't know his family's history and stuff, and so he.
That's right.
didn't-
See? And look what happens when you don't know your family's history. China buys it. That's what happens.
That's what happens.
This shows you why I got respect for you from Thundero. I keep fucking with you on this one. I don't know why. So okay, I'm sorry. Move on, Chad. We're gonna be on this too long. So.
No, that's true. I want to move on, but it is shocking here.
Yeah.
Now I'm glad
Yeah.
you're here for this because I don't
Uh-oh.
have any clue.
Xbox reportedly suffers server issues for 5 days straight. Whoa. Promises full mitigation in, quote, coming days after some gamers still cannot play. Now,
Okay.
let's be totally fair to Xbox. Sony had a much bigger problem with this
They
at one
did.
point.
They did. Now, of course, I don't have to deal with these problems because I am a proper gamer and I play on PC. But anyway,
That's
for
right.
the little console peasants, we should have this conversation. Uh, but no, I didn't hear anything. Of course, you're right. PlayStation had a mega issue a few years back. But this basically they weren't able to get DMR working. People weren't able to play games. Things weren't loading. They thought they fixed it, and they came out with an announcement, but it wasn't fixed, and it's still not fixed. So I know you're not part of the gaming division over there at Microsoft, but any idea what's happening? What's going on? They getting attacked or?
No, it's infrastructure as per usual with most stuff, right? So basically, as we talk about multiple times, coding is hard. Code is hard. So basically, what it looks like happened was there was a minor server outage that happened at the same time. Several people were playing online, and there's this constant like ping back and forth of consoles talking to servers as part of like maintaining authentication and stuff like that. The server outage happened in such a way that it locked the players out of their games, and they're unable to play. It's supposed to be fixed in next coming a couple days here. Sucks, and code is hard, and this is why the more convenient things get, the more complicated it is to maintain that on the back end infrastructure.
That makes sense.
And the other thing, because we're constantly having to weigh complexity versus like ease of use, and then security, right? Everything needs to be secure. We don't want people, there's like problems with people like hacking into like Alexas and stuff like that. Like there's that one where like somebody hacked into a Nest and like up the temperature in someone's house to like 90 degrees or something like that, right? So
Petty.
Huh?
That's
what was
petty. I said that's
Right.
petty.
It is petty.
So as with most things in life, right? Security comes with extra complications, and this is part of that, right? And part of it is the DMR system, right? Of wanting to make sure people aren't playing games illegally, and that is what it is, right? And there's no right answer here. These things I'm not saying that Microsoft isn't at fault here, but I'm saying is that the ease of like being able to just download your games as opposed to like purchasing a physical copy means that you're more reliant on code to run it to make sure people aren't like virtualizing that same stuff onto the console and playing, because they can do that, right? And so all of this is designed to allow you to get the games and play the games in a secure fashion, and sometimes things go wrong, right? No excuse. It should have happened, but it's going to happen again in the future. It's going to probably happen to Sony again at some point. It's happened to Google, multiple times. Like Stadia has been like a huge ball of shit.
That's just a disaster. It's true. I'm actually surprised it doesn't happen more often, to be honest with you.
Right.
I mean, to be honest, this is news to me because I played on my Xbox all week and had no problems.
The impact. So unlike the Sony one, the Sony was all encompassing, right? The Sony outage was very long, and it happened to everyone. This one only happened to a subset of users, not the entire. I don't even know what percentage, but it's not like I think it's not even a plurality, but it's enough of a percentage that it's made some news.
It's a problem.
But But no, it definitely didn't happen to everyone. There's plenty of people who are still playing just fine.
Yeah.
So,
well, Thundera, you know that Ben taught me all about ping.
Did he just?
He did. And actually, even though I got a brand new Tough Alliance computer sitting up here, my entire computer philosophy comes from Ben.
Oh.
Well, no, dude. Years and years ago, he said, "Well, you need to do this, 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 and this, and this," and I've been doing it ever since, and I've never had a problem. Don't have
Mister Unit,
viruses. Don't have
I have
any
to ask:
issues.
are you like a highly well written NPC? Is that what you are? Like Ben just tells you and you just did it for years without questioning? You just done it?
When it comes to computers, I'm a type of person, Thundero, that trusts
Uh-huh.
experts.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I've met a
I
lot of
have
experts, so
Yeah. Well, see,
yeah,
I
they're
have
dumb.
no problem admitting if I don't know something, find someone who does. You
That's
see.
true. Yeah, I'll do that too. But
Thundaro, you
again,
forget he is a highly evolved primate, and
that's true. Yeah.
beating the computer with a stick was just not working.
It wasn't. It is true.
And
My given
I think
nature was having problems.
I think and Chester can back me up on this. Like, I never claim to be an expert on everything. I have a very specific, narrow subset of stuff
Sure.
that I.
Me too.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So, basically it would come down to like computers and like Dungeons and Dragons. And I think anything outside of that, maybe movies, but anything outside of that, I would definitely.
Well, we'll get to your movie take later, but go ahead.
Oh, I know where you're coming from. I was prepared for this, so I know what you're going to talk about. So, anyways, moving on.
Yeah, no. Thank you for the information. Yeah, I hadn't even heard this had happened, but that sucks, man. But they just got to keep
impact
on
is
top
small.
of it.
Yeah, impact is small, but as we say, remediation is on its way. So
Right. Well,
Good.
over here in Japan, you realize that PlayStation, of course, Xbox never sold here, but PlayStation sales are way down, dude.
I mean, they're having problems with the PS5, the supply chains, right, and the Xbox, right, because it's the whole Bitcoin thing, right? They're having trouble with hardware, and
Sure.
and getting all the GPUs and stuff, right?
Yeah.
That's why I've been playing like laptop, gaming for a little bit now, because the way the laptop GPUs work, they're like soldered on. They can really only be used on laptops, so they can't make like
Clever.
Bitcoin mining farms. So you can actually find a decent like gaming laptop far cheaper than you could find for like a desktop model right now, right? Because they can't use those GPUs within a Bitcoin mining farm.
What I had to do, I usually build mine, but what I had to do this time is because, like you said, you just can't get parts. I had to buy a pre-built, but I made sure I bought one where, especially with the inflated prices, if I wanted to part it out, I would have made profit off of it. Because I'm gonna try my damnedest to not pay markup as high as I can. Right. So like the GPU in here, I haven't checked it, but last time I checked it, I could have sold it for like 200% over suggested retail because they're just they're outrageous how inflated they are.
Are you on the NVMe 2.0 cards right now for the SSDs? Those things are so amazing. Just
super fast,
incredible, right?
Super cool stuff, for sure. And I got a really killer machine going on now. My wife made a mistake though, Ben.
What's that?
Yeah, well, Seth said, I want a laptop, and my wife said, okay.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
I bought him a monster, dude. An absolute monster.
It hurts his back to carry it. It's like, oh God.
Ever since they could dump the DVD drives on there, it freed up so much space.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so like you can really get like some freaking super beefy fucking like systems now because there's just so much more available space internally with the DVD drives gone.
It's crazy how quickly DVDs were. I mean, you can still get them, of course, but by and large, they're become a very niche thing compared to what they were. Well, I remember when I was in my early 20s and my mid 20s, man. There were people with massive collections of DVDs, massive, and I'm sure they still have them, but it's just not. People just don't do that like they used to. It's crazy how fast that changes.
Beck's family was asking me, because again I'm the tech guy for the family and stuff, and so they were asking me, this is ages ago, what comes after Blu-ray, and I was like, nothing comes after Blu-ray, just like CDs. Nothing came after CDs, right? It's all going to be streaming. It's all and that worried them over in Australia. Yeah, right. And they didn't have the greatest internet at the time over in Australia, right? Now that's changing. They're doing infrastructure, and so they're getting much faster internet, right? But like, yeah, sometimes you just see the death of a medium, right? You know,
Yeah, sure.
we're not. It's just not going to happen anymore, right?
Horse
So,
and buggy.
And it's
Yeah.
a shame too, because Blu-rays especially and CDs especially had great quality. Like
yeah.
the especially audio quality is just miles above
Yeah.
what you can find on most streaming services.
Well, I had to buy an external Blu-ray for this computer. Doesn't come with any of it.
Yep.
Yeah.
What I don't, well, so they figured out the extra bits, right? So you can buy stuff on like Vudu or stuff, but you can buy them and it
Mhm.
comes with like the commentary tracks and stuff like that. But what I don't like is for some of these streaming services, you can't control the format of like whatever the movie is. So we've seen in some cases things get uploaded to like Netflix and stuff, and it's in like a weird aperture or something like that isn't
Yeah.
actually original. So they got it from like some terrible like fucking digital cut or something like that, and it just looks like hot garbage, right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing that annoys me is that if it was still in a physical medium, there would be more control of that, I believe, right? And so I don't know. Like, there's still a lot of movement happening on that. Like, look at fucking like on Amazon, like Prime or something like that. Like, how many different Blade Runner versions there are, right? It's
Mhm.
Sure,
crazy.
yeah, that's true. Yeah. Well,
It's
I'm
crazy.
still using VLM, by the way, and I love it. They keep updating.
Really?
I still use System Mechanic Pro. It's awesome. Never
Hmm.
had a problem with it ever.
Good.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Yeah, that's what matters.
yeah. I mean, that's what we try to find is something that'll last for a while and kind of keep everything, up and running, right?
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah, good stuff. But anyway, hopefully Xbox will get that sorted out. It's unfortunate, but and I'm
It
really
will.
looking forward to this Fable game. Oh my god, dude!
it looks
Yeah.
like it's going to be really awesome.
Looks
Yeah.
Fable is still a franchise that hasn't reached its potential, and that's amazing. But it hasn't. I hope they
It's
can
such
do
a
that.
fun game, yeah. And they always want to go into depth whether your how you play your character, good or bad, comes into play. And now this is a game with Fable that if they introduce some of these kind of things we complain about with diversity and all that kind of stuff, but if they incorporated that stuff into a Fable game, that would be interesting, actually.
Yeah.
You know,
Why not?
yeah, that would be
Why not?
interesting, because it belongs in that, I think. But I am looking forward to it.
Mhm.
Anyway, let's move on here. Go ahead.
Oh no! Then look at that hair. The Nation reporter Eli Mistal, I guess,
I just go
blames
with Ellie.
gamers
Call
for
him Ellie.
Mistal blames gamers for Buffalo shooting. Supports claim with questionable Hearthstone anecdote.
Okay,
Wait,
I have no
Yeah, this
clue
fat
who.
fuck again.
Well, thank you.
How-
I have no clue who he is at all, dude.
how does
Another one of
need?
these fucking toad-looking retards who just croak the same thing. There's white supremacy in gaming. Fuck
Yeah.
off.
How?
Yeah.
Fuck off.
How does Hearthstone equal a shooting?
Well-
Someone has to do this logical chain for me
Okay,
because it is impressive.
I will lay out what he has to say, but the first thing
Oh no!
I want to know is I heard some little blip somewhere this
Mhm.
morning about something in Buffalo. What happened?
A shooting at
Again,
a grocery store.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah. He released a 180-page manifesto. A lot of
They
it was
always have
actually,
manifestos.
I know, it's crazy.
so weird.
Basically,
So weird.
he showed a lot of sympathy for other mass shooters. A lot of it was actually like copied, right? From other
Copy and paste
Of course.
stupidity.
from other
Yeah.
manifestos, right? But basically, from what I've read of the manifesto and other, discourse on it, he was somebody who was very concerned about the Great Replacement theory,
Mhm.
and
What's
that basically. Go ahead.
The
Sandra.
idea that we're bringing in, or our government or agents in our government are bringing in outsiders to quite literally replace what a lot of these people call heritage Americans, or basically just white Americans, because
No.
for differing reasons.
Non-Jewish Americans.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Well, no, they're
Yeah.
bringing those people in to do the because they think they'll do the poor jobs that nobody wants to do, and then
Yeah.
because they'll be dirt poor on welfare, they'll vote for Democrats.
So, do you remember Charlottesville with the Tiki Torch guys? Right?
Yeah, those idiots.
Sure.
Yeah, I remember.
Who were saying, the Jews shall not replace us? It's
Yeah.
harkens back to that.
We're
right?
still
You
on
know?
the Jews.
Well, he also wasn't the same guy. Oh, of course, wasn't it the same guy? I don't remember. I haven't looked at his manifesto, but from what I've heard, he also had parts in there where he was basically sounding like an eco-fascist, like he was very green in that regard. And then he described himself as a far leftist, but like a socialist or something. Like this dude, basically, what I'm saying is this dude was all over the place, all over the place.
You mentioned something about a communist. I again, I didn't read all of it because I'm not.
No, I think he said he was a green national socialist.
I think
what he
what
said.
I
Great.
Far
think what,
leftist.
well,
Yeah.
I think what he might be referring to is he started that way or something.
Maybe.
I'm not entirely certain about that, but like we'll have to wait till it gets digested a little bit more. But I think the implications were like several years ago he was a communist / far left, and he went down some crazy path. I don't know.
Clearly,
I haven't even heard about that part in total. Right, so
How
I
many
could be- it
people?
could be
How many
something else
people did he
because-
hurt?
10. He
I
killed
think
10.
10
Jesus.
people. Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
So-
we have a serious mental health problem in America,
Clearly.
and we hide it behind political stuff. We hide it behind religious stuff. We hide it behind all sorts of stuff. But the reality is there is a lot of very broken men, especially men and women, but men are usually the ones who do the shootings. Broken men in this country, whether it was intentional or not, they exist and they need help. And we have too many people who want to pretend that men don't need help, that men shouldn't ask for help, and that's just nonsensical.
Yeah,
when
no, it is.
feminists get up there and they use that idea that that's part of the quote patriarchy, I don't think that's true. But I do agree with them that men have a problem asking for help, and men need to be able to do that.
Well-
That needs to be facilitated better
Who
because
was
we have a serious psychological problem with young men in this country
it sounds
of all
like it.
races,
Well,
of all persuasions. Yes, they often lean right, especially the ones the media gloms onto. But there's a lot of, like that same day, from what I understand, I believe there was a black shooter who got 4 or 5 people too. That
Oh,
There was
yeah,
is
but
hardly
3 shootings
that's
in Milwaukee
reparations, though.
alone.
Yeah.
There was 3 shootings in Milwaukee alone.
Oh yeah, they don't talk about black shootings.
Prior
That's true.
Yeah.
To,
But
it's okay when that
yeah,
happens.
It's
well,
all,
they
all
did,
broken.
but briefly. That's why I can't stand this fat fuck of a toad here.
well, they must be
And I-
so
and I-
excited
and-
that a white boy did something bad. My God.
Oh, they
I'm
do.
sure.
They jerk off to the thought of it, but I hope
Yeah.
this fat fuck dies on his neck fat.
Okay,
Oh.
I'll get to him in a second.
Wow.
Wow. But
You like him, I think.
I guess he doesn't
You
like
like
this
him
guy.
very
No,
much.
I don't like him, and people like him. I'm so sick and tired of people
Yeah.
like him.
Well, he's a race baiter, that's for sure.
Yeah,
But
yes.
you
And-
know, who
And
was it?
apparently he thinks Hearthstone.
Trust me, I'm-
Hearthstone.
I'll get into it in a second. I who was it? Was it Reagan or Ford that shut all the asylums down?
Reagan.
Reagan.
Another
Reagan.
wonderful thing that great Reagan did. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a
Fucking
mistake,
idiot.
it seems. But anyway, let's get this guy, Eli, or Ellie Mistel here. Now, Ellie, he's a mighty gamer himself, you see.
Yes, clearly.
And he gave us a little bit of anecdote, as it says here in the headline, when he was first time ever on Hearthstone and someone called him the N-word. Now,
That's-
here's the thing. I do hear that word thrown around a lot, but it's coming out of black people.
Jester, wait a minute. Hold on. You can literally not do that playing Hearthstone. You can't even talk to each other. At all. The
No,
only
of course
chat that
not.
there is emote chat. There's
have-
no
yeah.
chat at all while you're
I
playing
know.
Hearthstone.
Yeah, I'm gonna side as somebody who's actually played a lot of so this is actually a design decision by Wizards of the Coast. Part of the reason for that is because one of the biggest things they have to deal with are fucking idiots on like World of Warcraft who
Sure.
do nothing but say like
Shitpost.
shitpost, say horribly racist things, and they have to maintain like an army of people, like, constantly moderating and stuff like that. And so when they designed Hearthstone, they said, you know what, fuck it, we're not going to have any chat whatsoever. If you want to chat with people, chat on fucking
You can
Discord or
wave.
whatever, right? Yeah, you can
So-
basically wave and do like certain emotes. So if he's saying somebody said that, like,
He's lying.
What the fuck?
So-
is he talking-
He's
Yeah.
lying.
It's not even possible.
He's
Yeah.
lying.
It's not even
thank
possible.
you. So thank you from Kurt for confirming that this fat fuck was lying from the jump.
Well, yeah, because he's on MSNBC or CNN or something, and they
Yeah,
don't
one
know.
of their pet Negroes.
But as soon oh god, as soon as I saw this, I was like, huh? Because I've played a lot of Hearthstone too, Ben, and
Yep.
back in the day, and it's like, well, you can't do that at all. But he's just going on about how gamers are horrible, shooting games create murderers, which has been debunked
Is
so many times.
absolutely
for decades.
nonsensical. Yeah.
And that all white people are racist. That's pretty much what he's got to say. We're
Yeah.
all racist all the time,
Okay.
every day.
I'm at the
I
point now
thought
where I've
you-
heard that so much, I just go, okay, yeah, fine. I don't
Yeah.
care. I'm sick of hearing it. Shut up.
There you go.
I don't care. Go away.
But I put it up mainly because one, I didn't really know what had gone on with this Buffalo shooting, and two, Ellie Mistel. What a name! Your parents
That's a
hated
name.
you, dude. They hated
Yeah.
you.
And with good reason.
I've never even heard him before. You really hate this guy. I never heard of him.
Yeah,
But
I
you-
do. I really.
Darrow or Grimlock worked up. This is interesting. Let's
Yeah.
let's
Well-
drill on this a little bit. I want to
Hey,
drill
hey,
into
yeah.
this.
This dude is
All right,
clearly a
can-
race
can-
baiter. He clearly is.
Can I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Go for it. Yeah.
Go ahead.
House
I'm
niggas
open to
like
drink.
him are a fucking disgrace to the black race because he is nothing more than a pet Negro. You'll never see him on anything but MSNBC or CNN. But the kind of people who wait for shit like this to holler about white supremacy
Oh yeah.
and all these kind of terms that I'm gonna be honest are completely meaningless. If you believe white people are superior, you have a problem to begin with. And I know that they constantly change the definition of that, just like how they constantly change the definition of social justice to fit whatever bullshit of the day they're trying to fucking spew. These kind of fucking people do nothing positive. This dude, you just like it took literally 30 seconds to show that this guy was already lying from the very beginning.
Oh yeah. No, it's
Most
complete
people-
bullshit. Yeah.
Look, most people know that, yeah, there's a certain level of toxicity in gaming because, like Ben said, there's a certain segment of idiots who get on with the sole purpose of just fucking with people.
Yeah, they want to elicit
You know,
a response. That's all they want to do.
And yeah, and they're simple. It's real easy. There are so many things that have been put in place. You can block them, you can report them, you can do all these kind of things to take care of that. Takes less than 30 seconds of your time. So for people, when I hear people say shit like this, it's like, okay, if you heard somebody say something you couldn't deal with, you could have just left. This is not somebody walking in your house. You're talking about a virtual fucking forum. Easy to just click, move to another server, whatever.
Yeah, but you can't even do it
But-
in that. You have to understand Hearthstone. You can't actually
But
do that.
on- But on a day where not even 12 hours before, there was 3 separate shootings. None of them considered mass shootings, in spite of the fact that multiple people were shot.
Yeah.
Fortunately, on all of those cases, all of them are expected to live.
Oh, good.
But the fact of the matter remains that and these shootings happened less than 2 hours apart.
Mhm.
So in about 2 hours times there was 3 shootings, but because we know who those shooters was, not only was they not considered mass shootings, they was just it was just like, oh, there were shootings.
Well,
but
because that's
some-
white people's fault.
Yeah,
Somehow. Yeah.
but some certified nutcase, because I tried reading that guy's manifesto, and I got like a couple of pages in and go, this guy's a fucking nut.
Of course, he is. They're all
the way
nuts.
the way he wrote it, like even the way he like described the guns, it's like, this can't be serious.
Well, I
This
do
can't
find
be the thoughts of a serious person.
I do have a question though, Grimlock. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a conspiracy theorist. But why does it seem that every time that the government seems to be really really pressured with something, a shooter shows up?
Interesting.
Because they want people to willingly
Boy.
sign over.
No, you're not going to bite on that one, huh,
They-
Ben? And I hate to tell you, Grimlock, white people are superior. We are. We have larger penises.
Oh, listen to this.
Whip it
man.
out. Whip
I
it
do
out. Prove it.
apologize. I know it hurts.
Whip it
I
out.
know it hurts.
Screen share it. Let's settle this right now.
Listen, as someone
Oh,
who's
gonna
God.
win that fight, buddy.
as someone who's seen Chet's penis, I'm gonna have to.
Wait a
agree.
minute.
You see,
Whoa! Sit back down, and this is a conversation. What? How did we go from ranting about black race baiters to dicks?
dude?
What just happened?
Sultry weather days are soaking. Just so you know.
Oh,
It's
Oh,
lonely
no.
sometimes,
So-
and you know, Zoo. Let me tell you, just
It's true. That is true. But here's
so
the
you
thing.
say, so you're saying old Chet was out there Ric Flairing it in Japan?
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. The ladies do find it fascinating. I don't know what it is, Thunder. They just want to touch it.
I can't imagine. Yeah,
Yeah.
I wouldn't. Yeah.
But because they're so unaccustomed to anything bigger than a pinky finger. But hey.
oh no, I gotta go.
Wow.
Anyway.
That is
All jokes
disavowing
aside,
immediately.
I'm glad to know that it's just another moron murdering people.
Yeah,
How
it-
wonderful, fuckers.
That's what we need more of. Yeah.
Historically, we've been
Morons.
through this before, right? We've talked about violent video games. We've talked about music. We've talked about literature, right? You know,
Yep.
and these are not the droids you're looking for.
Nope.
Is what it really comes down to.
Yeah,
Just a wackadoodle.
it's an excuse that is so I'm so sick and tired of hearing, because if that's the case, every kid that has picked up a video game between 1979 up until now, we should all like be eyed by the police as future murderers, because
Yep.
according to them,
Potential.
it's the video games that make them murderers.
Well,
And-
yeah.
No,
Well,
look.
they tell you, Grimlock, the biggest threat to America are white people.
Yep.
Most things don't happen in a vacuum. This is not an overnight thing. This has
No.
never been an overnight thing. I was telling Thundaro some weeks ago that I had saw this report about the mass shootings in America, like the 13 previous ones, and in 11 of those out of 11 of those cases, not only was local law enforcement aware of this person, the FBI was aware of this
Yeah,
person,
doesn't that come out all the
and
time? doesn't
and did
Weird.
nothing.
it? Yeah.
It's very
Did
weird. Yeah.
nothing, because even though they saw all of these, what I would consider pattern forming behaviors, they still said not an imminent threat
You know what?
until after the fact.
You know what they
So-
do here, Grimlock, that I find interesting, because of course government is paying attention to troublesome people, obviously, but in
Mhm.
America they just seem to let them go for some reason. But here in Japan, of course, they want to arrest them for not doing anything. But if they see someone who is being very troublesome and kind of moving in a certain direction, they'll kind of bring them in and have a chat. Right? They won't arrest.
Mhm.
They won't arrest them or throw them in jail or anything like that. But they'll have a chat. And I don't know the statistics, but I would have a feeling that warning probably knocks down a lot of potential violence.
Probably.
Yeah. And I'm kind of wondering
Yeah.
why we don't do that in America. I mean, you're just having a chat with them. It's like, hey, a bunch of this stuff.
It
here,
depends
buddy.
where you are. It depends
You
where you
know.
are. Some places, absolutely, that's a possibility. We have, they'll do things like wellness checks and stuff, or at least
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
what
yeah.
they'll call it.
Yeah.
And basically, what they're doing is they're making sure you're not a threat. The problem is we have a political apparatus in America that is so, well, the best word for it is malicious. And it doesn't really matter who the target of its malice is. There's been times where it's been different groups, whether it be black people, whether it be Muslims, whether it be white people, whoever it is, right? They always have to have something that they're fucking with. There's always a group, Japanese people in World War II, Japanese Americans. There's always somebody that the ire of this apparatus turns to make the problem of the world or whatever, or it's a wedge issue. And this apparatus in our country is very dangerous, and it's very much a problem, and it's why sensible solutions, just a conversation. I'd be fine with that. I think most people are fine with that. But here's what happens.
Just
Is they take a sensible idea and they go further with it. So now you have government officials, legislatures and things, who take your idea, just go talk to them, and they say, well, what about if we just go detain them? You're like, wait, what?
No.
Yeah, we just take them for, 24 hours. Well, Okay.
No.
And then it becomes 48 hours. And then it becomes, well, we can hold them for a week because they're mentally unsafe.
Well, I mean,
And that's where the problem starts
yeah,
to come
no,
in,
you're right.
is the
That's stupid.
escalations.
No. I mean, because simply letting someone know that we're aware of what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
It can have a psychological shock enough to back them up, right?
Right. I agree.
Yeah.
And
Anyway,
I think, I mean, it's obviously a much larger conversation,
sure.
but there is a mass mental health problem in America. It has been for a very long time. There's a lot of things that are exacerbating it. And I think the more that we have this apparatus, I'm going to call it, that focuses with laser focus and then unleashes hell on a problem. You know, we call every problem we try to solve a war. That's messed up.
Yeah.
That's weird. Why do we do that? Why do we think that way?
Reminds me of a Norm Macdonald.
Well, I don't think the American people do think that way. I think our government thinks that way, and then they sell it to us. But regardless, that leads to much more, I'd say, even more animosity. There, you could put the tinfoil hat on and say it's part of the Hegelian dialectic, where they, the problem, solution, and then they're the savior. It could very well be that. I don't know, but I do know that this entire political culture that is promulgated by both sides on different issues of enemy versus hero is the problem. And that's why sensible solutions, like just go talk to them, when people bring that up, they always escalate it into some nonsense. Like even Trump said it. Well, why don't we just take all their guns away without due process? Like, what, Trump, buddy, we have due process for a reason. It's not hard to get a warrant. It takes 10 minutes. If you have a reasonable evidence that this guy, or you just have a reasonable suspicion that this guy is dangerous, you call a judge, bam, he signs the bench warrant, you go get him. It's real fast. It doesn't take long. But yet, when you start saying things like without due process, that's where my ire gets up, and that's one of the reasons why this whole political apparatus is the problem. And like I said, it's targeted different people at different times. I don't think it's like a conscious thing. Maybe it is. I don't know. But it's clearly there. And we've seen it demonize differing groups over time. Like I said, after 9/11, it was Arab Americans, right? We had this Arab fear running through our government and through other people, and we had the federal government literally setting up Arab kids as terrorists, quote unquote, so they could arrest them.
That's justified, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do love the little thing that old Buck Holly put here next to it. Hello, my baby. Hello, my darling. Hello, my Clementine. I love that, dude.
As an additional bit of context from what Thundero was talking about, I think there's an additional level of hesitation from law enforcement, because within law enforcement, nobody wants to be responsible for the next Waco. And when you start talking about the crazier, edgier parts of society, that's immediately what goes through everyone's head.
Well, maybe they should start by apologizing for Waco. Maybe.
Now you're getting crazy.
Yeah.
ATF's not going to do that.
Yeah, now you're being crazy. How about Ruby Ridge, Chester? Maybe they should apologize for murdering a family because he had a shotgun barrel that was too long.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of nonsense that comes out. I get the point, but I'm talking more.
Too short.
Well, the thing is, the FBI is clearly extremely corrupt, right? Clearly they are. But if we go down to the local level, the local level knows what's going on in their community for the most part. Cities are more difficult, of course, but they know what's going on, and just a simple conversation, like we used to have. I remember my brother doing something stupid, which he did a lot of that, and a cop coming and bringing him home to my father and telling what happened and letting my dad deal with it. No arrests, no tickets, just communication with the public. And they don't do this anymore, dude.
Yeah, so there was a time, and I know this from personal experience, where I grew up, you could call the sheriff, the local sheriff for that county. He would come literally detain your child if they were unruly for the night, if you asked him to. Because, you're just trying to scare him or whatever.
Right.
My sister was one of these kids. She was a complete lunatic when she was a teenager, and my mother had enough. And she called the sheriff and asked if there's anything he can do about it. And he said, yeah, I can do something. And he came and detained her for the night. Came and arrested her. And then obviously no charges were pressed and everything. She was released.
Yeah.
But what you're talking about is community policing,
Yeah.
right? Actual community policing, not this broad stroke corporate policing that we've been dealing with all over the country. And that's one of the reasons why it's been militarizing, because a corporate police force doesn't give a shit about the community. Half the
Yeah.
people aren't even from the community they're policing.
And
They only
and
care
on top,
about revenue.
and on top of that, right? You know, like you have these private prisons at the state level
Oh
that
my
have
God, dude, it's so disgusting.
right.
Yep.
I mean, let's give Biden credit where credit's due. He ended it at the federal level, right? But
Should have. He started it.
did he start it?
Yeah, he did.
Did he? I'd have to
Yeah.
look up. I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
He corrected his own mistake, I guess.
Oh,
I mean,
Scranton, Pennsylvania,
Only
Joe.
because of dementia. It wasn't nothing he did intentionally.
Yeah, keep in mind that Joe, for most of his career, was very, very anti-crime. He was harshly anti-crime. This is
Well,
a relief we've seen from Mr. Ben,
That's-
Mr. Biden.
So anti-crime that he did away the lynching law, so they couldn't punish him for the shit he's done. If anybody deserves a lynching,
wow.
Wow.
Anyways,
See, I do apologize, everyone, but it's the urbanite lingo. I don't know.
Midnight, oh God. What is happening right now? This
Hey,
the
look.
show is devolving.
hey, look, he wouldn't even know he's hanging. He'll do the Michigan J Frog while he swings.
Oh, fair. Yeah.
Be entertaining.
Anyways.
You could put it on halftime at the Super
Do it
Bowl.
after his ice cream. He won't care.
Corn
the
pop.
point being, though, is that, and this is part of the exacerbated problem with policing, is that we've privatized prisons. Prisons are now part of like our capitalistic economic system, right? And so, like, these private prisons have minimal capacity contracts with the state, which is absolutely insane.
Yep.
And that is, you know, so like cops are too busy filling jails or filling prisons to deal
Filling
with
quotas.
community.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
private prison things is absolutely insane. It's
I know
corruption
cops.
from jump one, dude. It's wrong.
Personally, I know cops. Yeah, I don't even know how it can't possibly be constitutional. But I know cops that have quit because of the quota stuff. When they tried to implement it in their department, they said, "I'm not doing that. That's wrong."
And they're not getting new cops coming in. It's a problem, dude. It's a real serious problem. But anyway, we do need to. Wow, we're really ringing the hell out of these stories today.
No, Brett. I mean an actual lynch. We could lynch him with hemp rope because I know
Jesus.
I understand. We get that. Don't encourage him, Brett. God. Well, let's move on though. Let's move on.
Activision Blizzard. Oh, here it is. I knew we'd get to this eventually. Activision Blizzard and King develop a new tool to measure character diversity in video games. This right here.
Okay.
You want to talk about a cyberpunk dystopia? Well, baby, you're in one. Because this is some weird computerized dystopian nonsense, this whole system. They basically turned people's identities into a video game system. And I just...
Yeah.
I don't even know how to disparage that any more than the words I just said.
Well, here's the thing, though. This is major levels of copium coming out of Activision Blizzard. King, of course, keep in mind, is the developer of Candy Crush, right?
That's right.
Just so you know. And we know that Microsoft is in, I don't know if it's all dotted and signed yet, but they are in the process of buying Activision Blizzard. And it probably won't be until the end of the year, I would assume, until it's all official. Do you have any known date on that, Ben, when Microsoft will actually own Activision Blizzard?
Dude, that's so outside of my division.
Yeah, okay,
like,
that's fine. But I'd imagine toward the end of the year is what I think it'll probably end up being. Just like with Elon and Twitter, it's not going to be toward the end of the year that we see actual ownership flip. And therefore, I'll explain what this is real quick and then let the discourse begin. But I don't imagine that when Microsoft actually takes control of Activision Blizzard, this will be implemented. I don't believe they would do something so stupid, because this is the thing. This little tool that has been developed by King basically looks at your video game and makes sure that you don't have any white characters in there because they're unacceptable, you see. Right. And that's what it does. It looks at all the characters in your game and gives you a score on how woke you are. That's what it does. Right. And therefore you can adjust that woke level down because, get rid of the whites. and the males, because that's not good. That's what this is. And it's once again major, huge copium kind of Activision Blizzard. It's huge copium,
Massive overcorrection.
massive
Massive.
overcorrection.
Yeah.
And I cannot believe for half a second that Microsoft would actually implement this when they actually own it. There's no
I hope
way.
not.
No, there's no
It's
way.
not been good for PR.
Here's the
Like,
thing about
there's-
Microsoft. They like money.
Yes, it's not been good for PR. So I've seen a lot of like the big WoW and big Blizzard streamers even are like, this is really way over the top. It's just it's preposterous.
Yeah.
It's absurdity. It belabors it to even argue against it because it's just way too far.
It's
Like,
just
pull it back, guys.
it's pure
Pull it back.
It's pure bigotry. But
Yeah.
You
however,
mean taking the scouters from Dragon Ball Z and using it to detect token levels
Yes.
is over the top?
maybe.
I'd have never thought that.
But no, I actually have my fingers crossed here for Microsoft. I think in probably about 5 years, we could start seeing some pretty cool shit coming out of these IPs. I really do believe that, because Microsoft, they've had their gaming division, of course, entertainment. They've had their problems. They've made their mistakes. Fair enough, especially if we go back to the some of the stuff with the Eternity Quest there. What was that really famous RPG that everyone
Age of
liked?
Empires.
No. It's not ElfQuest. Oh God, my brain. It was really,
I'm not
really
sure.
big until the Bethesda stuff kind of took over, where it had become very popular. But anyway, there was a big debacle with that, and they've made their mistakes. But all along the way, Microsoft has really been about trying to make successful IPs and make money. That's what they want to do, and good on them for that. And with picking up all these really great Activision Blizzard IPs they're going to acquire, there's some, especially with WoW, coming out
Yeah.
WoW 2.0. That's cleaner, prettier MMO. Put some real weight behind it. Kind of do what Amazon did with the New World there. Do something
Yeah.
similar, but you have that mammoth WoW IP and other things. I expect some really cool stuff coming out of Microsoft here in about 5 years, I think. But this is, I don't know why they're bothering with this, because I can't imagine
I do.
Microsoft not just cutting this out.
I do. Because it's very similar. Like, I was watching a little bit of, before I jumped in here, I was watching a little bit of Asmongold. He's the big WoW streamer. He's the biggest WoW streamer, but he doesn't always stream WoW anymore.
Asmongold.
And he was
I thought it was a naked chicken in a hot tub with a bikini.
no.
No.
And
He's
he
been doing a lot of Elden Ring recently, but yeah, I know.
Yes. He was ripping into this, and he was basically making. I agree with what he was saying. He's making the point that this comes off as the people who you have 4 people in a car. One of them happens to be black, and one of the people changes the radio station to the rap and looks at the black guy and is like, "Yeah, that's for you, buddy."
No,
It comes off with that kind of energy.
screw
Like,
that. You
whoa.
get Wailing Jennings, black dude in the back seat.
You're damn right you get Wailing Jennings
Yeah,
every
take
time,
it.
because hell yeah, you do.
I don't like it either.
But my point is it comes off as that kind of energy. Like, it's a massive overcorrection. And then they say things like, well, we asked the developers and they all agree with it. And it's like, of course they agree with it. They can't openly say they disagree with an effort like this without having some clout behind them, because you'll fucking fire them over it. Blizzard is in a state right now where they cannot afford negative PR on this front, especially with all the shit that's been happening with them. A new lawsuit just came out again against them. I think New York or somebody else is suing them.
Yeah.
Like, they're dancing through this minefield, right, with this stuff. And the solution to it was never to overcorrect. And this is a massive overcorrection. They actually spent time and energy and money on creating this system that is so unbelievably just cringy and stupid. Most people, the vast majority of people, don't think this way. They don't want to think this way. They just want to play a damn video game. That's it.
Yeah.
That's what they want to do. They don't want to worry about how many black people are in it, or if the people who are black are represented well, whatever. I guess they're not throwing spears, I guess is all that means. I don't know.
Oh, wow.
That's apparently what they think gamers are thinking about, right?
Oh,
they
so
think
Spear Chucker
when I'm
Jones was a
playing
great
a video
football player,
game-
though.
he was. When I'm playing a video game, they're thinking that I need to see a lot of Cherokee representation because I'm part Cherokee, so I want to see that.
Mhm.
But if you dare to have a misrepresentation on any level, well, I'm just furious.
Yeah,
Nobody really cares.
Where's the Amish representation?
That's true.
Where
Well, they
is
don't
it?
play a lot of video games.
They
so.
don't find out that they're not represented. So
Yeah.
No, that's
But
right.
my point
Don't
is,
tell them. I guess.
and the point that Asman was making is that
Hey,
this
I would
is
like a game with the Amish vendor,
Yes,
so I can
please.
get Amish pound cake to replenish my
Oh,
health.
and
Do not
the,
deter my dream.
and their jams. Oh my god, dude. Anyway,
Has that
They are
not been
good.
included in like a GTA game where you can like run wild through the city with a horse and buggy?
yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Grand Theft
Yeah.
Amish,
Yeah.
I would play that.
Yeah, I will get
But
back
the
over to
point that he
Thundera,
was
but-
making,
Go ahead.
the point that he was making, and the point that I agree with, is that it comes off as people who have never actually been. They're probably upper middle class or middle class people who've never been in genuine poor situations or lived in that neighborhood or worked with those people. So they think they have to put on this kind of performative bullshit. Just be a normal fucking person. That's it. That's all you got to do. Just treat them like a person. They're a person. Treat them like that. Stop acting like they need you to dance. They're not. Very few people
Ooh.
are asking you to dance for them. They just, you know what they want your dance to be? Make a really fucking good video game that I can play.
Yeah,
That's
fine.
what I want you to do. That's it.
Well,
I don't care about tokenization and all this stuff. And neither do you, to be honest, because if you did, you'd come up with a system that doesn't come off like you're the idiot dude in the car who changed the station to rap and gave him a thumbs up.
All right. It's going off the rails. I think the problem is that you're right. You nailed it on the head early on that they have a PR problem because they've had too much bad news about
Oh, yeah.
terrible machinations in the business, right? This could have been like easily solved.
Nation.
I'm doing it on purpose, not just because I'm getting a reaction from you. You have to understand that.
I know.
So the point being though is that this could have actually been easier solved. Just make a couple good donations to a couple good charities, to those ends. You don't have to do this. This is, I think you're right. I think it just comes across as like a PR stunt more than anything else.
It is.
Yep.
And I
You
kinda
don't even
thought
have
this
to
was-
make the donations. Just stop doing the fucked up shit you was doing. How about just
Yeah.
start?
Yeah,
No,
that's
I mean,
true.
like,
Yeah,
start
that
the
is
place,
fair.
you know?
But
Well, yeah.
it isn't going to matter, though.
The donation shit has been overdone. That's just more pandering at this point. When they say, "Oh, we'll make a donation to this group," and that, who gives a fuck?
But my point
Just
is,
stop doing the fucked up shit that you're doing.
at least it
You're
would
over
be
there.
pandering that has a good effect, right? Or has a higher chance to have a good effect. This is not going to do anything. I don't know if they're hoping that other companies use it. It's probably not going to be adopted, right?
No.
That-
But the point being is that you're right. First and foremost, fix the problem internally, take care of your own house.
Mhm.
And then if you're looking for PR stuff, do it in a way that doesn't seem incredibly, like stupidly self-serving
Bullshit.
with no impact,
I
right?
know. We got this awesome game. Don't you guys get phones? I mean, come on. Don't you have
Well,
phones?
this guy, there's a comment here on this video from Asman's that I was watching earlier that I think kind of nails it perfectly. He says, quote, "Here at Blizzard, we seek to eliminate cultural barriers and racism, mainly by ranking various characters and their cultures, comparing them against each other to decide which is better."
That's dumb. But I've stopped on this picture right here because it's curious to me. They're showing this as a represent. Look, we got black people. Call of Duty here, Vanguard.
Yeah.
But did they not realize that there were black people in World War II? I mean, there actually were
Yeah, that
plenty
happened.
of them.
Yeah.
Did they not
Yeah.
know that? Do they not know that?
Who knows what
You
they know?
We actually had black heroes in World War II. Did you know that?
No, that's not possible, Chester. People on Twitter told me that's not possible. I don't believe it.
Okay. Alrighty.
Yeah.
But
It-
dumbass stuff, man.
I'm gonna be honest. This whole thing just reeks of a money laundering scheme because there's no way anybody who put that together said this is gonna do any earthly good. They had to know that.
No,
would
it's
hope.
copium.
You're,
I said
you're-
it from step one. It's copium. It's
yeah,
it's
but
stupid,
it-
especially because Microsoft's going to be taking over soon enough, dude. You just
Yeah,
why don't they just shut up? Just shut up. You've been bought. We're just going through the steps here in the paperwork. Just shut up.
Well, the worst part is they just did their announcement like the WoW team did for their new expansion, and by and large, it's been accepted well. There have been a few naysayers, but most of the community's like, this sounds pretty cool. They did a good job here. They even had representation in their panels with a trans person and all different colors of people and everything. Great, fantastic. Nobody really cared about that. You were winning, is my point, Blizzard. You were winning. You had done what you needed to do. When you have a scandal like that, your solution to it is stop whatever you were doing, stop that, and then just make really good content. Make really good games again. Focus your energy there. Don't focus it on this nonsense. Because one, it's not going to solve the problem you're trying to solve. Just systemizing it, that's not going to work. And two, nobody really cares about it unless you have other problems exacerbating it. If you didn't have this big sexual harassment scandal and all these things that's going on, do you think most people would give two white hot shits about any of the stuff that they're trying to solve with this system? No, they wouldn't. If they had put out awesome video games like they used to, people will turn a blind eye to just about anything as long as their content is good. So the solution when you're in a scandal like this is always to just put your head down, stop the thing you were doing, put your head down, and get to work. It's not this.
Yeah.
This is a terrible solution. It's not even a solution. It's just PR nonsense.
Well, here's another suggestion. If you do have your transgender representation and that person actually knows what they're talking about, you don't even need to introduce them as transgender, do you?
Yep,
'Cause,
and they did it.
We're going to figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah, they did it.
And as with that idiot girl on G4 who doesn't even know how to do her goddamn job. But anyway, let's move on here. Bethesda. Yeah. Ooh, goodness gracious.
Bethesda's delays Starfield and Redfall to first half of 2023 explains they want them to be, quote, the best, most polished versions. Now, Bethesda.
That's stuck
Bethesda.
in my throat right there.
Bethesda, buddy. Snookums, honey, sweetie pie. So do the gamers,
Yes.
but you're Bethesda.
Yeah.
You're Bethesda. We're kind of expecting a buggy piece of shit. Let's be honest, we all are.
Let's be fair. When's the last time Bethesda put out something that wasn't buggy? Daggerfall?
Yeah. Yes, correct. That's the correct answer.
Daggerfall still buggy as hell.
A little bit. But you can smooth through it, though. You can get through it.
Yeah.
But Bethesda, that's why I put it up here, because Bethesda's saying, it's wow, dude.
But, Chester, you were just talking about Microsoft. Microsoft recently acquired them as well.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe this is part of it. Maybe Microsoft is telling them, hey, we want less buggy nonsense. Maybe it's come down the chain that they want their games to be of a certain standard. Maybe, I don't know. I'm just speculating.
That's why I said what I said before about Microsoft. Microsoft Entertainment has made their mistakes, dude. They have.
Of course.
I mean,
Red
mega
Rings of Death.
ones, mammoth ones. But they don't want to. It wasn't done intentionally or out of neglect, or it was just shit happens, right? They don't seem to be really good at taking. It's like Disney doing their own video game stuff. They're not good at it. Let other people, professionals, do it and manage it from the back. I said that because I know Microsoft wants to succeed. They want to be successful. They actually have a desire to do so. And I'm kind of curious. Hopefully, this will come out better than normal Bethesda things. But Starfield has potential to give you something that will absolutely bury Star Citizen. Because Star Citizen, keep in mind, we're over a decade now, right?
Yeah.
And people are starting to get some good reviews, but it's still not actually playable. Not really. And Starfield could be a better option to what Star Citizen is trying to do. I commend what they're trying to do, but it's too ambitious, I think. But Starfield could be something pretty cool, dude. It could be.
Yeah. Well, it's a shame too, because they did an event to announce when they were going to release Starfield. They had a date and everything ready to go. And I had just recently, maybe even this week, might have been last week, I watched an interview Todd Howard gave, and he said he was fairly firm on that release. Like his exact words were, "I wouldn't have said it if we weren't certain we could hit it." Oops.
Yeah,
So,
never believe a word that comes out of Howard's mouth, dude.
Of course not. Of course not. But I think it's actually encouraging, right? Because I do want a great Bethesda game again.
Yeah.
I absolutely want that. I think everybody wants that. Most gamers, I would say, especially people who like RPGs, we've at least played a Bethesda game. And I'd say a lot of us tend to love them, whether it be Daggerfall, Skyrim, Fallout, whatever. We love Bethesda as a company. Bethesda used to be one of those companies that you just knew was going to give you an awesome experience. It might have been buggy as shit, But overall, the experience was going to be
I
awesome,
still say
and they're not
Morrowind
that
was the
anymore.
best, though.
Probably.
Yeah.
They're not that anymore. They lost their way big time in the last decade or so. And this could be their chance to get that mojo back, especially since the person who kind of took it from them, CD Projekt Red, well, they shit the bed. They shit the bed hard.
Yeah,
So
they did. What a
this
shame.
is a good time to be Bethesda, especially since they just got bought up and they have these big games coming. They have a chance, and maybe Todd understands this, maybe somebody there understands it. They have a chance to build a lot of goodwill back
Oh my
that
God.
they lost.
Yes, yes, yeah.
Blizzard's flailing around, and Microsoft owns them now too. I mean, this is their chance. They're not going to get a better moment to get back their throne
Right.
than this. So they need to hit it right. So maybe that's why they're doing it.
Yeah. And Brett, I agree with you in regards to Star Citizen. It's a real shame. But Ben, correct me if I'm wrong, but Redfall is the new Elder Scrolls, isn't it?
No.
It's not. Then explain to me what Redfall is.
Actually, maybe you're right. I was thinking about something else. Hold on. Is Redfall? Redfall might be the new Elder
I
Scrolls.
thought it was the new one. They're going back to the Daggerfall region, is what I thought they were doing.
Redfall subreddit mods are surprised that Redfall isn't an Elder Scrolls 6 game.
It
Okay, so
isn't. Okay.
no, but it was a running joke at one point. Okay.
Okay.
Oh, it was because Elder Scrolls had a similarly named area called Red Guard.
Oh, sure. The Red Guard. Yeah, sure.
Right. But from what I'm reading, it's not actually.
Okay.
Nope, it's a new IP.
Yeah, new IP. Because I was surprised. I was like, what? I thought that's a little bit pushing. Honestly, Starfield, I think, is they're pushing it, to be honest with you. But I hope it's great. I'm really looking forward to it. Do you have any idea what Redfall is, Ben?
No clue. That
Yeah.
hasn't hit my
I
radar.
just looked it up. Redfall is an open world co-op first-person shooter from Arcane Austin, the team who made Prey and Dishonored.
Ooh, Prey,
Yeah.
dude. Oh my God, can we finally get an actual Prey game? That would be badass.
Oh, this is that one. It's like Urban Arcana. Like all of them have like weird
yeah,
powers.
yeah.
Yeah. I've seen this. I've seen previews for this.
Yeah, because that game fell apart, right? So maybe this is the remnant of it being raised up. That would be cool, dude. But anyway, I don't believe a word that comes out of Howard's mouth. However,
It just works.
it
Just
just
works.
works. But I would
just works.
love. I've always been a Bethesda guy, dude. I would love a
Me
really
too.
good Starfield, man. I would love it.
If we could have a renaissance with Bethesda, Blizzard, and BioWare, I'd be a happy gamer. Oh,
Oh
yeah,
god,
happy boy.
A new awesome like Mass Effect would.
Yeah, boy.
I would be
Oh,
lost.
yeah.
Listen, I know Shepard's supposed to be dead, but screw it. I saw him breathe. If he did 100% completion, he breathes at the end when they find his body.
That's true.
So just let him be alive and make a new Mass Effect game and just do it.
We won't talk about whatever that last Mass Effect game was.
Yeah, we won't even. We're just gonna leave that alone.
God, dude.
Ooh.
What a disaster. But anyway, I just put it up here because we want it to be the best, most polished version. Okay, yeah, screw you.
Okay.
But
So do we.
So do we. Yeah, so do we. Anyway, now this is sad, dude. Damn it.
Frank Langella responds after being fired from Netflix's The Fall of the House of Usher over sexual misconduct accusations. Quote, I have been canceled just like that, end quote.
Now,
interesting.
Frank Langella is a really good actor. I've always enjoyed him. He's a lot of times he plays kind of character stuff, but I think he's a good actor. He's been in many great stuff, and I don't know why they're Netflix of all places is remaking The Fall of Usher. I just don't think they can pull that off because that is a character study movie, and Netflix doesn't do that. So whatever, but I think he's not necessarily a bad choice to play Roderick, however, this story is just plain sad. Now, if you know, I don't even need to go into. I'll just use this picture here. If you go look at this article here, what happened was, and if you don't understand the story of the House of Usher, basically you have a dude, an old dude. He's got a young wife, and he's kind of losing his mind inside this house. That's the general concept. I don't want to spoil it for you because you go back and watch the old one. It's pretty good, but he does have a young wife, and he's kind of a perfect age to play the main character in the House of Usher. And during this is what happened, okay? Because a lot of bullshit and hype and garbage came out, speculating and saying all kind of nasty things about Langella here, which are complete lies. Because here's what happened: they were doing a romantic scene in front of a fireplace, I think. And in that scene, he's got his young wife, whatever actress is playing that, and in it he's trying to get into the character of the scene, and I guess outside of the frame of the shot, he touched her leg, right? But he's supposed to be touching and kissing on her. It's an intimate scene, right? And the actress instantly got upset. That's outside the camera shot. What are you doing? And she walked away and she wouldn't come back. And basically, in essence, within the movie production, press charges, as it were, and they let him go. So you're doing a romantic scene. You're trying to get into it to sell the romantic scene, and Langella is a good actor. And this lady gets upset because he touched her, which is what he's supposed to be doing. That's
Boy, I
it.
hope
Yeah.
she never does any like stunts or anything like that, because
Oh
you,
boy.
you know what I mean.
You get accident-
That's it.
do you remember when Ryan Gosling got like clobbered by Harrison Ford in Blade Runner during that fight scene they
2049.
had?
Sure.
Yeah. Like Harrison Ford like actually hit him, and they captured it on screen. The moment he
Yeah.
got,
Oh, many.
he
Or-
got-
yeah.
Well, I there's plenty of like incidents in Hollywood that I think are more than valid to bring up and stuff like
Sure.
that. But I think you're right in this situation. They're literally filming a scene where they're lovers, and it is a love scene and such. And I don't know, it's just weird. But like, yeah,
It's just
whatever.
the entitlement, dude. It's the entitlement. There's no
Mhm.
reason that shouldn't happen. And if you're so, and I'm going to get into another sensitive female here in a minute, because
Uh-oh.
no, seriously, this is an issue. Because if you're so sensitive to such a thing, you should not have taken that role. You should not
Yeah.
have, because this guy, I've never heard a bad thing against Frank Langella ever. Right? It's not
Right.
like one of those dudes, like I keep mentioning recently, Errol Flynn. It just pops into my head. That dude was a monster. There's a lot
Right.
of Hollywood actors. Michael Douglas, another touchy guy, right? There's plenty of dudes you can get on their ass for the shit that they do because of the power and prestige they have. Not Frank Langella, for God's sake, dude. And
Right.
and to make all that noise and to get this guy fired off of a role he was probably made to play, to be honest with you. My God, dude, this pissed me off. I mean, because him playing Roderick, I don't know. I don't know if you guys know the storyline, but he's a perfect choice to play Roderick Usher, dude. He really is. If you understand the movie, and it just pisses me off because they just canceled him because of this whiny little bitch.
It's ridiculous. It's again a theme. Overcorrections, massive overcorrection. It makes you look far more guilty when you overcorrect than you probably are, and it's ridiculous. If his account of it is absolutely accurate, which I obviously don't know.
Well, no, the studio is saying that's what happened.
Oh well, then
It's not
that's
him,
even
It's
worse.
them saying it.
Like
Yeah.
that's just dumb. It's just stupid. Like a lot of this stuff is just stupid. Like I highly doubt he intentionally groped your thigh right in front of guys. Maybe he did, but I highly doubt that was the intent. It was probably almost definitely just him and his character doing his job.
Yeah. Well, he
And
said he
that's
was trying to
acting. I've
portray.
acted. Sometimes you go a little far when you act. It just happens. And all she had to do was say, "Hey, don't touch my leg," and that would have been it. She didn't have to freak the hell out and make it into a big thing and then cost this man his job. That's a way overreaction.
It
And the
is.
fact that they went along with it is not only stupid, it's also an overreaction.
I mean, I'm just hearing from this that Ryan Gosling should have gotten Harrison Ford canceled for abuse.
Well,
Yes.
fair, but I mean,
Oh.
there's a lot of that. Like, go watch any movie that Scott Adkinson is a stunt player in, and you're going to see
Yeah.
people getting hit, right?
I mean,
Or
people
what
do
have you,
understand that there have been times on Hollywood films and lesser films where they're doing a sex scene actually naked and basically sex happens.
Oh no,
Just
there's
happens.
been real sex, and there's many
Yeah.
occasions that the actor and the actress agree that would
Yes.
be best, and it has been done several times. So that's not at all
Yep.
what we're talking about here. We're talking
No,
about
but I'm
people
talking about the
people.
times where it's accidental, right? And nobody lost their mind. At least I've never heard of that, and got somebody fired over it because it just happened. It was a happenstance type situation. And I think that people like this lady really don't belong on a professional set. If you overreact that much to somebody basically just grabbing your leg,
Well, no, he
you don't belong.
brushed by it. He said
Yeah, exactly. You don't even belong
it
in
wasn't a
that area.
grab;
You
it
need
was
to
a brush.
making movies, make acting and stuff like that. It's an easy job that is a lot of hard work. And what I mean by that is the hard work isn't so much the acting itself. That's for most actors. That's actually not that difficult. They do that all the time. They train for it. They're ready to do that. It's all the other stuff around it. It's all the political games you got to play. It's all the nonsense you got to deal with mentally. That's exhausting. And if that is enough to push you over the edge, you need to be off of a
Right.
professional set immediately.
Yeah,
Just
and keep in mind they tried to stack the deck by saying after he did that, he said, "Do you like that?" And then he made some off-color sex joke. They were trying to stack the deck against him. It's been
yeah,
come out now that no, he didn't do either one of those things.
yeah, none of that
Right.
happened. Of
None of that
course.
happened because
Yeah.
he's. I mean, and especially if it was a different actor that we know has kind of a history, maybe we'd be
Mhm.
a little more suspect. But Frank Langella does not have that.
Yeah.
He's the consummate professional, actually, and I just couldn't believe this absolute stupidity of this. Um, whatever.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's the whole problem with that whole movement is once you've slain all the witches, which they haven't, but let's say they have, you kind of start looking for more witches to slay. It doesn't stop, right?
Well,
And
what's
that's I
next?
think what we're witnessing
Are
here.
we going to accuse Johnny? What's his name? God damn it! I lost his the John Wick
Keanu,
guy, Keanu Reeves. Are we going
Keanu
to
Reeves.
are we going to accuse him of some sexual misconduct when he is Mr. Super Floaty Arm guy?
Yeah, he won't even touch other
I mean,
women.
he
He
he is
just won't do it.
so
Well, I
desperate.
mean, that's why they. So I know you're a big fan of learning new words. Have you ever heard of the word woke scold?
Yes.
No.
Okay, so
Tucker
this
uses
is
that one a lot.
yeah. So this is one of the things that exists online, and it's a thing that's actually like from the left perspective. They hate them because there are people online who are waiting to tear down other people, especially other leftists, right,
Sure.
for not being progressive or left enough,
Right.
right? And so, because you can't cancel like Ben Shapiro, you can't cancel like Sean Hannity and stuff like that, but
No.
the woke skulls love to cancel other people on the left for any perceived transgression, right? And so it's really not something that the right has to worry about. It's really a kind of a predatory thing that's evoked on other progressives or
Well,
leftists.
liberal. The left eats themselves, dude.
Right.
It's them eating their own, basically.
Oh yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, there's not much more to say about this other than it's a freaking travesty. Especially now that because this article does lay it out well, and thank you, Macaulay. What exactly happened? This is nonsense. It's complete nonsense.
It,
And to
it,
disrespect a man like that, and I guarantee you, because I've actually followed Frank's career for quite a while. I like this actor, and I guarantee you there were conversations he had with her about the scene, making sure she was comfortable. I guarantee you he did that because that's
Mhm.
the type of dude he is, right? And then, and still, because it's some old Italian man touched me. Yeah.
well, yeah, I agree with you guys. I think whoever this woman is, she's not fit for this because if you go back and you look at films and not just sex scenes, you've had all kinds of scenes where shit went too far.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
sure.
you know, I was immediately thinking about when LL Cool J wanted to fight Jamie Foxx on the set of Any Given Sunday because he had gotten a bit too into it.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'm forgetting. Oh, and that's the other one. When Jim Carrey was asking Jerry Lawler to really blast him with the chair on the set of Man on the Moon,
Yeah.
and I'm thinking,
Said okay.
Jim Carrey's an idiot, so
That's true, but hey,
what I'm
anything
saying.
for the
But
camera.
it was original. But they originally knew that it was going to be a worked shot, and then Jim goes up to him and goes, "No, I can take it. Go ahead, lay me out." And it's like,
All right.
okay,
Well, wasn't there
Yes,
some
I've been doing this for like 30
wasn't there
years.
some kind of controversy with Haley Berry in some kind of sex scene too?
Um,
Monsters Ball.
I don't know, but
Well,
I don't
that's
think there was
that.
anything coming from Haley or Hallie herself. It was other
No,
people.
No, the black
well,
community despises that movie because of a white man fucking her and her winning an Academy Award for it. That's the controversy with Monsters
there
Ball.
was some controversy, not controversy, but there was like do you remember that horrible hacker film Swordfish?
oh yeah,
Oh God. Oh God.
where he dances at the screen. He dances at the keyboard while he's
Dan,
hacking.
Ben,
as-
why?
That was so stupid.
As the resident computer guru, anytime I see a quote unquote hacker who's like lounging,
Mhm.
and smoking a cigar, drinking a Chianti, and like, oh god, like let me tell you, everyone I know who's of that ilk is got a
They're not doing that.
pyramid. They've got a pyramid of Red Bulls,
Mhm,
and
Yeah.
they've got an ashtray full of smash cigarettes, right? And they're
Hot
up to it's about they're oh god, I shit you not, like this guy I used to know, like he had a bagel on his desk with vomit on it that he had
Oh.
not removed for like
Oh.
Oh yeah,
month,
that's
right?
perfect. That's
Yeah.
perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
No. So like and when you see anybody who's a quote unquote hacker and they're doing two index finger typing, it just like it's like nails in a chalk.
Oh God, yeah. No, I understand. But what was the controversy in that movie? I only remember Haley showing her tits,
she-
and they weren't even good tits, dude.
Right. So
Oh,
she
listen to this guy.
Blasphemy. There he goes with that fucking blasphemy
Oh, boy.
again.
So when that scene was coming up,
Flat
apparently all of the production staff decided they had to be there on set that day, as that scene was being filmed. And I remember like reports about Hugh Jackman was like, no, all you guys fuck off, and we're just going to do it with Holly, me, and like the cameraman.
Sure.
Like it was just weird
That's
that like
normal.
everyone, right? And so like Hugh Jackman was like standing up for her and like giving her some privacy on the set and stuff like that, right? So, but
And all
that's
she
that's
does is flash her boobs, and she probably shouldn't have smiled the way she did. It's a bad scene, dude. It's a bad scene.
I mean, it's a bad movie. Like,
Yeah,
let's not. There's a lot to be blamed for that.
Literally everybody in that movie went on to better things. Everybody.
Except for John Travolta.
Well, we don't
Although-
talk
I
about
enjoyed
that.
watching him get killed in Punisher. I don't know about you, but I.
Although the
That-
the
it was
the
over the
bearing
top. All
ball
that
bomb
goofy
in that movie
screaming,
was
though.
pretty cool, though.
Yeah.
That was a cool scene. But anyway, let's move on.
Disney will donate portion of 2022 Pride merch sales to group promoting LGBTQ curriculums in public schools. Even the freaking acronym is I can't even say what it did. I can't even talk. It's work.
That's fair. But here's the thing. Now, talk about doubling down, right?
Yeah.
Because Disney in June donating to gay or homosexual charities. Okay, nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. Whatever.
Especially during June. But we know they don't actually care. But nevertheless, this whole public school thing and push, especially with little kids, pushing this whole the quote unquote gay agenda, it's not going over well with the American peoples. So why are you pushing this, Disney? You're only hurting yourself. I don't understand why can't you just give donations to homosexual groups? Finished. Why does it have to be specifically for people who are pushing LGBTQ curriculums in public schools? It's just another doubling down when clearly the outrage across America from what Disney done is building. We've seen their stock is certainly take a hit. Not everything has been hit hard, but I have a feeling by the end of the year, Disney's going to be worse off than where they are.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you could put on the tinfoil hat and do all kinds of conspiracy stuff, but just from like a pragmatic perspective, this seems like a losing position, and yet it's a losing hand and they keep trying to play it.
Yeah.
And I don't know what they think they're going to get out of that or what they are getting out of that, because who wants this? Who actually wants this? I know, like, people in that community, and I hate even calling it that, but that's what it's called in the zeitgeist, don't even want this really. They don't want this controversy. And when it's a controversy is the worst time to double down on, because now it just entrenches people. And now we have people entrenched, and I think a big portion of Americans, probably a large majority, are against this stuff being taught to children. Now, depending on what this stuff is, obviously there's nuance to that, but I just don't understand why they keep just stop.
Particularly with the public school thing, yeah. Particularly,
just stop.
So let me come in with the liberal cuck perspective on this,
please,
Yeah.
and also explain to me why there are 5 more new colors on the rainbow flag.
Oh no.
I don't know.
Exactly.
We've talked about this before, right? Even within the community, they don't like all the letters being there. It's
too much attention, dude.
Getting a little
They
out
just
of
wanna
control.
live their
Anyway,
life. Yeah.
right.
That's right.
As Tondero mentioned, and I compliment him for being cognizant of this, right? Just because this is saying it's 2 public schools doesn't mean that it's going to stuff like elementary schools, right? There's still a large problem in regards to LGBTQ stuff about like sex education that is really bad. What sex education we do?
Why?
Why what?
Why? Why do you need to know more than dick goes in hole? Condoms are good.
Goes in hole.
Well,
You gotta be specific with that hole, because we got a lot of dumb dudes out
Well,
here.
I left it
Yeah,
ambiguous for a
really
reason,
true.
and I was very health conscious. I put
What has
condoms in
happened?
it.
part of it is demystifying parts of sexuality. Part of it is making sure people understand, like, if you're using condoms, like there's certain lubes that you don't use with condoms, right? Life cycles of condoms, even how to put on a condom.
That's the
Kids-
girl's job.
Anyway,
He didn't take the bait. You almost had him. You almost had him.
Yeah.
That's right. You really did. The point being, though, is that there needs to be some catch up between this,
Ooh,
and
I wouldn't suggest ketchup. Mustard, maybe.
Oh God, that would burn. No mustard. Ooh.
ow.
What kind of freaky shit are you into, Justin?
I mean,
I'm sorry, man. Go ahead, dude.
I know, and it is freaky. Let me tell you.
Oh.
TFT after dark, boys.
Oh.
The point being, though, is that this isn't really that big of a deal, right? I know what you guys are saying, and that there could be a perceived problem with timing, right? But I honestly don't think it's that big of a deal, right? And it's just Disney, I think, trying to reaffirm to certain members of their community who were dissatisfied with their response to not pushing back against the Don't Say Gay bill more. And I think this is just them trying to reaffirm their commitment to that community.
Fair enough.
Well, the problem though is that's not they're not obligated to be committed to any community that's not a shareholder. And that's what's getting lost here. Like Chester said, they've lost a lot of money in that stock price. I mean, everybody has. Market's having some troubles, but they have really. Oh yeah, and they have really, and you already have DeSantis. Whether you agree with him or not, there is a little bit of logic that constantly promoting this stuff seems to be, at least on paper. Maybe it's not, but it looks like it's hurting their stock price, and that might be illegal. Because they do have a fiduciary responsibility to not do things that, hurt the stock price as best as they can. So there is a chance, and I'm not saying I agree with it, but there is a chance that regulators could find a problem with that. I just don't understand why they think they owe. Disney doesn't, let's be honest, Disney doesn't owe anybody, besides what's, mandated by law, an explanation for the things that they do, left, right, or center, whether you agree with them or don't. But what they must do is take care of their investors. They absolutely must do that.
No. I mean, I know what you're saying, but you're taking it further than I think that is the implication. I mean, under that same logic, Elon Musk can't buy Twitter, right? It's definitely hurt the Tesla stock, right? And it's going down as a result, right?
Yeah.
So are you
Yeah, I get
are
the
you gonna?
argument. Yeah, but I think with me, it's a PR issue, right? If this isn't even necessarily something that Disney promoted openly anyway. This is just something a reporter has grabbed upon on and created a headline. But because the PR is so negative in when we're dealing with elementary schools specifically, you would think that Disney would be aware of this and make sure that it's not in any way can be confused with that, right? That's what my point is, because having some kind of sex education in high school, even though I'm joking about it, that's fine. I most people are like, yeah, whatever. But as long as it isn't this harping, year on year end nonsense. But there are a lot of there's two things you don't mess with. One is people's money, and that's what the Democrats are doing right now. Now, I'm going to be honest and say some of it is flowing in from some of the things Trump did, sure, but mostly it's the debacle that the Democrats have been doing, right? But you don't mess with people's money, and you don't mess with their kids, dude. This is
Well, there's a third
very
one.
bad politics.
You don't mess with people's food. Now that's might be an issue
it comes
too.
under money, right? But
Yeah,
but
we're having a perfect storm of bullshit coming up here.
we do.
And yeah, it's not going to be pretty. But which again goes to your point, though. Why is Disney wasting time on this? Because let's be honest, it kind of because they're probably not out here. At least I've never seen them out here talking that they do this. Maybe they have, but it's not something they put in their mainstream marketing that they're doing this. So
it would be easier just donate money to ACLU or something. Right. And then, whatever the ACLU does with it is their business. It just would be smarter PR, Ben, is what I'm saying.
Well, I mean, they could have just donated a whole bunch to the Trevor Foundation. And
there you go.
There
you go.
Right.
Well, you know what I mean? It's PR.
No, I know. Right. And so, I don't think it's really that big of a deal. It might be a minor. It depends on which echo chamber you're paying attention to. It might be a minor misstep in some echo chambers, but maybe because we all kind of or most people consume different little pods of things, and so they might be hoping that this particular news cycled through more of the news cycles for the LGBTQ community and not so much for others, right? I mean that's probably what they're hoping, because always keep in mind that like within the history of Disney, they've always had a pretty pro-gay stance. Like they were one of the first major like theme parks that were open to gay weddings inside of the theme park, right? Like
that's not the issue, though. That I understand what you're saying, and you might be 100% true in what you just said. It might not have nothing to do with it, but the perception is the problem, right?
Yep.
I agree with you, but not in the degree that you mean that.
Well, I understand you're saying that it might not be as big a deal as what it's perceived as being, and it's probably true. But right now, people are really hot about Disney pushing against that legislation in Florida, which is not the "Don't Say Gay" bill, by the way. People are very upset with that. They don't understand Disney, of all companies, doing something like that, and it doesn't matter what the ultimate truth is, and you know this. It's about perception.
No, so again, we're agreeing, but not to the degree that you think we're agreeing. So you remember what Disney people were really hot at Disney about before that was the fact that they weren't pushing against it. They had lots of LGBTQ members of their the faculty or the people who work there and stuff like that who were very upset that Disney wasn't
you're overstating it.
No, well, I mean, to what degree? Because there was plenty of like news reports about it.
There are a lot of people in America, the vast majority, who could give a shit about gays, dude. They don't care. Just okay, you're gay, but go be gay over there and shut the hell up. That's what the average American thinks, dude. Right? They're not for or against. They just just leave me out of it. And there's a lot of things we could talk about.
This is the classic problem. The squeaky wheel gets the grease. Like,
That's right.
So people were upset about it. They were complaining. Because they were complaining, Disney felt like they had to respond.
It's a very small percentage, a very small group of people who are complaining. It wasn't
Welcome
an
to
actual
politics. That's how
enough.
politics works.
Fair
You know
enough.
enough of this.
But I'm just saying it hurt them. It absolutely hurt them, dude. And it's
Yeah.
going to continue hurting them as long as they allow this kind of shit to keep going on. They need to back themselves up from it. If they want to give money to the homosexual community, go ahead. Just do it, like you said, through the Trevor Foundation. Do something like that. That is, innocuous. Don't.
Well, just start your own charities or something. Like Disney's got the
They
resources;
got
they
a ton
can
of
do
charities
that.
already.
They don't
Yeah,
get a but
Well, I'm just saying. My point is when you're donating to things, and this is a political group. If that's what they're pushing a something onto a public policy forum, which is a public school. When they're doing that, they're going to get themselves in a quagmire because
Yeah.
somebody's going to be against it. There's nothing that has universal consensus anywhere ever, and that can cause friction. And the goal of PR is to cause as little friction as possible. That's why it sounds like it's spoken by aliens when you hear PR copy, right? It's not how people actually speak. This is going to, of course, cause more friction, and I think that's Chester's whole point. Is there's
I
no
get what his, I'm
reason
not
to cause
disagreeing with
that.
them. What I'm
Yeah.
saying is that they're doubling down on it. Let me refine the point I'm trying to make. Right, they're doubling down on feeling that there's a larger portion of who they want to side with on that regards,
Mhm.
right? And so that's who they're doubling down with, I
And
guess.
they're wrong.
I mean, we'll
Yeah,
see.
I do think that.
Well,
I
no,
do
they're
think they're
wrong. Because they're Disney, right? It's not Nike or some other company. It's Disney. What is Disney? Disney is about family and children, something that homosexuals have very little to do with by definition, right? And Disney has built that up over decades and decades and decades of being the family children thing, and they're hurting
Brand, yeah.
themselves in that regard. And the thing is, I don't know that you understand, Ben, is I don't
Understand
want
perfectly what you're
Disney to
saying.
burn.
I do.
I don't. I
do.
want Disney to survive. I want what Walt Disney created to not only survive, but to be exactly what he wanted it to be. That's what I want Disney. I don't want Disney to burn at all, dude.
Yep. Walt's been dead a long time, Chester.
I understand that, but I'm
His
just
head,
saying,
however,
I
is
don't
frozen
take that
underneath his.
line, unlike you guys.
His head is frozen underneath Epcot, but
Oh,
he's
no,
dead.
it's not. Anyway, I do need to move because I'm getting tight on my time. God damn it. It's always Ben's fault. We blame Ben. We do.
Yeah.
That's fine.
That's fine. Is this the one? This right here, I probably cover this tomorrow because this needs to be covered because this dimwit, this Elizabeth Olsen here, she's a dimwit.
No.
Yes, she is, and I'm going to cover it
No.
tomorrow because no, little girl. But anyway, right here, this is what we'll end with because I was talking about another sensitive woman here. And go ahead and read this headline. It's pretty interesting.
Actress Andie MacDowell reveals she suffered a panic attack from after seeing too many men on set. Quote, "It just freaked me out."
Okay.
I'm gonna go look at the
She
lunar
must have a
eclipse of my
seizure
life.
if she goes to a football
I'll be
game.
back.
Then
All right, later, dude. She, all right. Now, Andie MacDowell, she's a bit older. There's probably a lot of younger people don't even know who she is. I loved her in Groundhog Day. So she's had a couple of cool roles. She could be the soft, warm, fluffy love interest pretty well. But here's the thing. It's worse than you get from reading the headline. Because not only was she freaked out by seeing way too many men on set, she really needs women to comfort her. She can't feel comfort unless she's around women. Only women can give her comfort. And we've seen several actresses that have kind of gone this route. We just saw with Langella that girls clearly would fall into this category. This is not a good thing for America at all. If we're having a ever growing amount of women who are just not capable of any kind of calm and peace if they're not around women. This is a problem. This is a really big problem. And I put this up here not because of her. You could say, okay, well, she's a weird, quirky person because an eccentric because she is. But we covered many articles here over many months of women being way overly sensitive, dude, way overly sensitive. And this idea that women can only be comfortable with women is a problem because that's not how humans work. We need each
Yeah.
other. We are a symbiotic, parasitical relationship. We need each other in good and bad. It's how we function. And like I said, this lady aside, there seems to be more and more and more females that think just like her. And it's not even in the celebrity. We see it elsewhere. We see it with all these kind of commentaries. Like I know that I watch several stuff that Grimlock has said he watches, and these are more Black community commentaries. But they're having a huge problem with that over in the Black community. My God, it's monumental. What's that really smooth dude? I think he's a consultant. He's like a personal
Oh,
consultant.
Kevin Samuels.
Kevin
He just
Samuels.
he just died
He just
actually.
died.
What? What?
Yeah, he had a heart
Yeah.
attack.
Kevin?
Yeah.
Oh, dude,
And there's
what
a lot of black
shame.
people who are actually celebrating that. So
No way.
Yeah.
That dude was on
yes.
it, dude. He's a bit harsh to be
No.
fair, but
There-
Kevin
There's
Samuels.
there's a lot of black people celebrating that.
That's unfortunate. But
It's-
Kevin Samuels, Abba and Preach are keeping it real for sure. And there's a bunch of other ones too. Sotomayor, and it's actually much bigger than I know. I guarantee it. But I mentioned that specifically because this is a widespread problem we're seeing all over the place. But it seems like the Black community is having a real bad identity issue when it comes to male and female relationships and interactions. And I don't know why it's hitting them harder than others, but it certainly seems to be leaching out into the greater public. And I don't know if you agree with me on that, Grimlock, but well, do you agree with me or not?
Yeah, I do. I mean, it's kind of sad, but this is what it has been for about 60 years plus now. I don't see it getting any better because there are too many. There's too many. There's just way too many people who make too much money off of
Yeah.
the misery. Like
Yeah.
like that fucking toad you had up earlier. That they can't wait for things like this to happen. And Kevin Samuels dying is a further proof. Whether people like him or hate him, more people. There again, I've said this before about these narcissistic, overly emotional people. They're more concerned about whether they like somebody or not rather than what they do. I mean, just look how it is in politics. I mean, right now you have so many people who are staunch Democrats, and I'm not who would just overlook any fucking thing this shitty administration does because there's a D next to them.
Either way,
If
that's
Donald,
true.
if Donald Trump was still in office and he was doing this shit, the kind of spazzing out that would be going on would be of monumental proportions. It's sad to see. And this chick, she's further proof of it. It's like you're freaking out because there's too many men on set. Well, do you even leave your house? Because I hate to tell you this, men were kind of everywhere.
Yeah, half the population
So,
even.
I mean, if you need comfort that much, I mean, there are lesbian bars. There are places you can go. You know, you can go to WNBA. No, there's probably too many men there.
Well, but I'm just saying that this shouldn't exist, though.
It shouldn't exist.
Seeing as
It shouldn't exist. But we have for the last. I know you've been out of the States for a while, but
Yeah.
we have really codified the average American to the point where saying no, just a simple no, you can't behave this way, or no, you can't do this, or no, you can't do that, drives these people into these tantrums. You're an actress. You get paid to pretend.
yes, you're a
Pretend you
professional
like being
liar.
around.
Yeah.
Pretend you like being around men. It's your job. It's
It's just
literally
your job. Yeah.
your fucking job. Most people who go to work don't like don't like at least one or two coworkers there. They
Oh,
just do their
yeah.
fucking job and go
Yeah.
home.
Well, the
Do your
problem with
job.
that is, do your job, sure, but the problem is that 80%, and it's actually higher, but I'm just, going with the lowest common denominator here. 80% of all men are protectors. We're
Yeah,
the
I'd say that's
opposite of
probably accurate.
assaulters,
Yeah.
where it's built into our DNA. You actually have to do quite a bit to stop listening to that little voice in your head to not be a protector. Now, I understand
Mm.
sociopaths are real things, but they're a very small part of the population. And therefore, women should feel comfortable and safe around men, is what they should feel, and because that's the reality, right? You're killing me with Kevin Samuels being dead. That dude is way too suave and sexy to be dead, dude.
Yeah,
Well, he is.
he's gone.
Yeah.
He's
It sucks.
he's
He was
gone,
awesome.
and just be glad you don't pay attention to Twitter, Chester, because you would have been disgusted with the
Yeah.
stuff that you're seeing. And the funny thing is, the people who celebrated the most are the kind of people he was talking about.
Of course. Of course.
So, I mean, that part should be a shock to nobody. But you know, again, people should. I'm not surprised by this kind of shit anymore. I've been seeing it my entire life. It's like I've told people, when I've learned to realize that the person, if they're celebrating your death, they must have been scared of something you're saying. Because
Mhm.
to celebrate a person's death over an opinion, you didn't have to listen to him, you didn't have to watch him, you didn't have to do nothing, you didn't have to pay attention to the man at all. If he's
Of course
saying,
not.
and here's another thing that I see that a lot of people do that I think is annoying. If somebody is making a general statement, because people want to act like generalizations are not true. If somebody is making a general statement and that shit don't apply to you, keep it moving. Move the fuck on. You don't have to sit there and stop and go, not me, not me. Well, motherfucker, if I didn't say you by name, I apparently
Right.
was not talking about you.
Yeah. Well,
So,
Kevin is not talking to me at all.
well,
But
he was,
he's trying to help the
he made,
community.
yeah. But I mean, it's not like he didn't talk to people outside of their race. He asked questions, so they got mad. This his death kind of came in term when he did a show.
Yeah.
And he did a show based on a Chinese term, and the Chinese term was leftover. And then
Women, yeah.
from women over the age of 30 who are unwed,
Well,
leftover.
25
And
really,
he
but
said,
okay.
he was talking about it in of terms of American women over 35. He's like, are y'all left over? And the mere even talking about it in that sense drove him into a fit.
Of course.
I saw all kinds of people, even D.L. Hughley was latching on to that. And it's like, come on, man.
Well, I mean,
We all know that. It's kind of like when you go in that used car lot,
Mhm.
and you see that Mercedes that's like only 6 months old and it barely has any miles on it, but the price is ridiculously low, and everybody goes, "Fuck wrong with it."
Yeah, exactly. Well, Kevin was
There's no
certainly no
way.
holds barred. I mean, he didn't
Yeah,
hold back at
but
all. But
it's the
what he
same.
was
But it's the
saying was
same thing with a
true.
person. Because I mean, like if you look at a 35-year-old woman, and she's gorgeous. Like she's legitimately gorgeous. Like she's
Yeah.
a 10. You could take her anywhere in the world, and she's a 10.
Mhm.
And she's got money. She's got the looks. She's got all of this, but she's single, unwed. And you go, the first thing you're gonna go,
What's wrong with her?
fuck wrong with her.
Yeah, that's true.
You would
That's
do
true.
that with a guy? They don't bet. If Chris Hemsworth, I don't know how old he is, but he's not. He's married. But
He's
if
got
he
an
wasn't,
ugly wife.
don't matter. He's happy with her.
Yeah, sure.
But if he was unmarried, right? At his age, with the kind of money he is, as popular as he is, you would say one of two things: fuck's wrong with him, or he's a hoe.
Yeah. Yep. No, it's true. And but what really would bother me about this article the most is how nonchalantly she's speaking about it, and the fact that I've seen so many other qualifiers from so many other communities that this is something that a fairly large chunk of American women are moving toward, and that is not good. It's really, really um, it's a symptom for sure, because this is not the right thinking at all. It's just not, especially seeing as most men would go above and beyond to protect a stranger. Most men, right? It's just built into us. It's
Mm.
just what we are. And this nonsense that men are somehow a threat is ridiculous. Ridiculous, especially in some kind of public format. You're talking about you're surrounded by a bunch of men. Well, I guarantee you that even if there's a bad one in there, the rest of them aren't going to let anything happen because you're amongst a
Yeah.
bunch of men. That's the safest freaking place you're going to be.
Yeah. No, there is a lot of sentiment in a lot of communities and among a lot of ladies and among a lot of males. I'm not going to call them men to be fearful of men. Like you're saying, you've seen this. It seems to be a growing problem, and it is a problem. And a lot of people will say things like, men need to do better. Okay, explain. Because I know for a fact, like Chester's saying, I'm one of them. Every man in my family's one of them. We
Sure.
wouldn't tolerate you hurting a woman in our
Nope.
presence.
Nope.
I mean, unless she was like going to stab a kid or something, yeah, okay. Extreme circumstance, fine. But in a normal circumstance, no, absolutely not. Um, and I think you're right. I think most people, not even just men, just most people are like that. They don't like violence. And our society is becoming far too comfortable with just watching violence, watching other people hurt other people, not even turning the other cheek, just enjoying it, right? Like actually seeing chaos unfold and seeming to enjoy it. That's a serious societal problem. That's a serious level of rot in the ethics of your society. You shouldn't think that way, and you shouldn't be that way. And I think
Well,
it's becoming ubiquitous across all quote communities in the
it
country.
seems to be.
Just let it happen.
Yeah. Well,
Just
I saw a video where I can't remember who was showing it, but it was a very telling video, and they were showing a bunch of stuff. But this one little blip caught my attention. You had these two girls, and one of them had just had her 50th body count, and they had a little cake for her to celebrate getting fucked by the 50th man. But in
Jesus.
that same conversation, these very dim-witted people were going on about that they were going out to hang out with the girls because they can't hang out with the men, they said. And it's like, well, okay, you have no trouble allowing 50 strangers to dick you, but yet you
Right,
can't
that's
hang
fine.
out with men?
But a conversation, oh,
Huh?
that's over the line.
It's very, very strange, don't you think?
Good Lord, 50 men. That is, whew.
Well, they seem to be trying to get the biggest numbers. Body count seems to be a big deal with these TikToker girls, which of course is not good for you. It's not good for you at all. And I won't
No.
even get into that conversation again. But there are certain chemical reactions that you're really screwing yourself bad by doing that. But that's a different conversation. But I just thought it didn't make sense. You know?
Yeah.
Illogical was the word, I
No,
guess.
I tried telling you at the start, Chester. This country's broken, man. There's serious problems here that I don't think are going to get better because I think we're in an age of cowardice. We're at the point of empire where it's easier to let it fall than to be the one to try and prop it up. Because let's say we do elect a new staunch reformist president, right? Like somebody like Trump, but maybe even better in some ways. That person, in order to do the things that are going to need to be done, will either get himself killed or be a one-term president anyway, because the people don't like reformists. We like the idea of reformists, but when somebody gets in there and causes radical change, the people who get hurt by it are the normal people. The
Of
people who
course,
suffer the
always.
blowback
Always.
are always the normal people. Even if they agree with the radical change, they're still the ones who are going to have to struggle because of it.
Sure.
So in a quote democracy, that person becomes very unpopular typically. I don't think that person, whoever it would be, would survive a re-election campaign. Even if the forces he ousts don't kill him or she ousts, don't get the kill shot in, re-election would be incredibly difficult. I mean, for crying out loud, look at Churchill. Churchill lost his re-election after World War II. That happened. So these things happen, and they happen because, like you were saying earlier, perception is more important than reality.
Yeah,
Someone will have to go in there
unfortunately.
and make really, really, really hard decisions.
Mhm.
The hard ones, not the ones that they talk about. Oh, so we did such a great thing. No. The hard ones.
Yeah.
You're going to need somebody like a Lincoln or a Teddy Roosevelt. You're going to need somebody who's willing to die for it, genuinely,
Yeah, but
who will fight and die for it.
I understand the political level of the conversation. I do, but I was kind of more saddened by the more ingrained cultural aspect of it.
Yep. And that's why you have that political situation, is because we have a cultural aspect of cowardice where people. It was actually, I didn't get to watch it yet. I'm going to watch it later, but there was a video from Clarence Thomas where he's talking about people have become too comfortable with differing forms of bigotry and intolerance that they don't recognize as bigotry and intolerance. And that comes from cowardice. It comes from a lack of moral courage. It comes from a lack of introspection, because introspection is courage at the end of the day.
Mhm.
It's hard to look in that mirror and be like, I kind of sucked. I need to do better. I need to fix whatever my issue is, whether it's some form of vice or whatever.
Mhm.
That's not easy to do.
No.
And it's really hard to do when people are demanding you do it, because then you're not actually doing the work. What you're doing is just trying to get them to shut up.
Right.
So we have
That's true.
we have a culture full of people who are scolds, one way or the other, and then we have a culture full of people, and they're scolds mainly because they're cowards, and we have a culture full of other kinds of cowards who just want to be left alone, and they don't want to do the work to realize, and I think that's started to change, I hope it is, that there comes a point where you can't just be Cincinnatus on your farm anymore. You have to be conscripted to save the Republic.
Mm. Well,
I think that's the best example I can give you is Cincinnatus. Now, he wasn't a saint by any means, but he got the shit done.
yeah,
They asked him to come do it again. So I think we need somebody like that at the top, because culture flows from the top. I don't think it flows up. I think it flows from the top. It's kind of like a corporation or any organization. If you have bad leadership, you're not going anywhere.
oh, no, that's
You're
true.
just not.
It is no.
Yeah.
I mean, we have many examples to prove that marriage is the one that comes to the top of my head. The only reason
Yep.
we have marriage today is because we want to copy the nobles, and the reason they had
Yes.
marriage is because they owned land and shit, and they wanted to make sure that there was a proper legacy of control. But everybody
Yep.
copied it because we got to do it too. Yeah,
Yep.
it's true.
Copying creatures, the human
Yeah,
race.
we are.
Copy each other. Copycats.
Yeah. Well, anyway, guys, I do need to run. I do have work. I got to get in the shower and get into the city. However, I do appreciate it. Today was way hot political. That's okay. Tomorrow we'll definitely, we always try to balance it. Tomorrow we'll have more fun with fun stuff. Goodness gracious. Yeah, we'll see you tomorrow, guys. 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Later.
Bye.